It is still open for teachers in Cavite and Laguna and Batangas as well who were not able to participate the previous webinar sessions. This webinar aims to orient educators on the features, contents, and use of teaching and learning resource called the DOST courseware in Science and Mathematics for e-learning developed by the DOST Science Education Institute. Learning modules included in the DOST courseware are aligned to DepEd's K-12 basic education program. This application software can be a tool for both teachers and learners, especially in the new normal delivery mode in education. Interested participants may register through the link flashed on your screen.
The next activity is the Virtual Robotics Contest, which aims to encourage students to create and innovate a robot that solves a problem within the theme of moving forward, robots in the new normal. This is open for junior and senior high school students enrolled this school year 2020 to 2021 in public or private schools in Calabarzon. This contest aims to spark interest among students to develop their creativity and inventiveness through appreciation of science, technology, and innovation in making possible solutions towards the new normal. Submission of entries is until November 5. For more information, please download the contest rules, criteria, and forms or visit the DOST Calabarzon website through the links shown on the screen. DOST is hoping for your support and participation in the said activities. For those who will not be able to join us via Zoom, you may still watch the forum through the FB live stream available in the DOST and Nether Region 4A Facebook pages. To start our day, may we request everyone to sing the national anthem followed by the opening prayer to be led by Mr. Marlon Natividad of Nether Region 4A.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiliw, pero sa sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ang bagaw, ay hinatang tula, awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidinig. Lumalang araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya na pagkay mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to gather today for the 6th CALABARZON Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. We pray for your presence and guidance as we conduct this activity. We ask that all objectives for this forum will be met today, and may it lead to a more vibrant culture of research, statistics, and innovation in the Calabarzon region. May our dream of a growing research and innovation environment and more partnerships and cooperation towards building knowledge and information be realized. We pray that this activity and the efforts of the people behind it inspire and increase the appreciation for research among stakeholders, including those in the public and private sector. Similar to this year's theme, may today's activity contribute to bridging research and innovation towards Calabarzon's sustainable and inclusive development. Once again, we entrust to you today's event, and we ask all this for your glory and in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Good morning to the participants and guests of today's forum. I was actually about to say good morning, Calabarzon, not until I realized that maybe some of our participants are in the different parts of the country. We are in a very challenging times, but wherever you are, may you be in the comfort of your homes or your respective offices, we welcome you to the 6th Calabarzon Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. I am Angela.
And I am Herbert, and we are your host for today's forum. Angela, you mentioned that we are in a very tough and challenging times right now because of COVID-19 pandemic. But still, we are gathering online to push various initiatives, especially with the central theme of today's forum, bridging research and innovation towards Calabarzon sustainable and inclusive development, research in statistics, and innovation.
Yes, Herbert, what a great opportunity for all of us to gather and exchange knowledge and information on various topics and different sectors. We hope for everyone's attention and participation, by all means using the available features of this Zoom webinar. And to officially welcome all of us, may we call on the chairperson of the Regional Research and Innovation Committee, Dr. Felix M. Mercado.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. First, I would like to greet some very important persons who have joined us in this RSI forum. Director Luis Banua and Assistant Director Gina Gakusan of NEDA Region 4A, Director Alexander Madrigal of the OST Region 4A, Director Charito Armonia of PSA Region 4A, of course, my co-chair in the RIC, Dr. Dora Soleta Nantes, of the president of Southern Luzon State University, Engineer Ladislao Andal, RDC co-chairperson, Mayor Frederick Vida of Mendez Nunez, Ms. Nang Ik Min of Singapore Polytechnic, Dr. Dan Chica of SAPI. And I would also like to greet our participants in this webinar, viewers from the live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The Calabarzon Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum, or RSI Forum for short, is a biennial activity conducted by the Calabarzon Regional Development Council through the Regional Research and Innovation Committee, together with its partner agencies. This year's theme, Bridging Research and Innovation Towards Calabarzon Sustainable and Inclusive Development, will showcase various research aligned with the Calabarzon Regional Development Agenda. And we would like to highlight here the importance of research and innovation in achieving the development goal of the region. The RSI Forum, just like any other activities, was also affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, as mass gatherings are prohibited to curb the spread of the virus. But with the collaborative efforts of the Technical Working Group and the DOST's tool for the webinar platform, we were able to hold this forum through virtual means. The parallel sessions for the oral and poster presentations were conducted on separate dates, August 26th to September 2nd, for the oral presentations, and September 21st to September 25th for the poster presentations. In total, 103 research papers from various government agencies, academic institutions, and school division offices were showcased through the virtual presentation sessions. For the main event of the forum, plenary speakers were invited to share their knowledge on research and development and innovation on their respective field of expertise. The presentations will surely give us ideas on how research and innovation are utilized in the perspective of electronic industry and foreign academic institutions. The proponents of selected research papers from various regions or from various sectors, such as agriculture, environment, and social, were also invited to share the results of their studies. Through these presentations, may the students who are watching the RSI Forum gain insights on how to conduct research. May these also inspire other researchers to share the result of their research and to continue to introduce innovations through research. May this forum serve as a venue for government agencies, local government units, and the private sector to get to know the different technological innovations of our researchers for possible replication and adoption. The Calabarzon region as an industrial hub of the country faces challenges in sustaining its economic growth, including the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. But we hope that after today's forum, we will be enlightened more on how research and innovation can help our region address these development challenges and achieve a sustainable and inclusive development. We would want to see more research being showcased in the future Calabarzon RSI Fora. And on behalf of the Calabarzon RDC Regional Research and Innovation Committee, I am pleased to welcome you all to the 6th Calabarzon Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. I wish you all a fruitful and meaningful day ahead. Good morning once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mercado. It is indeed that this activity will help in the promotion and strengthening of research culture and statistical capacities of different development actors and contribute as well to the development outcomes in the region.
Yes, Herbert, and actually this is not the first time that we are conducting this kind of forum. The first one was conducted in 2010 and it has been a regular activity of the region since then. I am sure that the participants would want to know more about today's forum. So to share with us the overview, we have with us the University President of Southern Luzon State University and the RRIC co-chairperson, Dr. Dorothy B. Zoleta-Nantes.
Good morning, everyone. Allow me to provide you a brief overview of the 6th Calabarzon Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. The Calabarzon Research and Statistics Forum is spearheaded by the Regional Development Council through the Regional Research and Innovation Committee. The forum is conducted every year. The first one was conducted in 2010, and it was a very successful forum. It reached out and gathered hundreds of participants from various academic units, private organizations, and government agencies. This is now the 6th Regional Research and Statistics Forum, and for this activity, we called it Calabarzon Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. This is in line with the integration of innovation with the research initiatives that are already taken on by the different state universities and colleges in Region 4A in partnership with the government agencies and non-government organizations who are collaborating and cooperating in delivering programs and services to bring development to our service and partner clienteles in the Calabarzon. This is the commitment that the Regional Research and Innovation Committee is realizing to follow Republic Act number 11293, or the Philippine Innovation Act, which was signed by President Rodrigo Duterte on April 17, 2019. This year's forum has the theme of bridging research and innovation towards Calabarzon's sustainable and inclusive development, which aims to showcase research studies aligned with Calabarzon's regional development agenda, geared towards promoting a strong culture of research and strengthening statistical capacities of academic institutions, government agencies, and local government units. It also highlights the commitment of all Regional Development Council members to make research more relevant in addressing the development needs of hundreds of communities in the region. It is our responsibility as partners in building our nation. The RRIC Technical Working Group is composed of Manuel Enverga University Foundation, the Commission on Higher Education, the Department of Education, the Department of Science and Technology, the Department of Trade and Industry, NEDA, all in Region 4A, and the 5 state universities of Calabarzon. They are Batangas State University, Cavite State University, Laguna State Polytechnic University, the University of Rizal System, and the Southern Luzon State University. And the research consortia include the Health Research and Development Consortium, Southern Tagalog Agriculture and Resources Research and Development Consortium, and the Southern Tagalog Consortium for Industry and Energy Research and Development. They are the leader institutions behind this activity. That despite the challenges amidst of the COVID-19 pandemic, this hard-working group made this event possible. The RRIC Paper Evaluation Committee reviewed and evaluated the research papers submitted by those who are interested to join us in this activity. The committee is led by DOST, and the members of this committee are BIFAR, CHED, Department of Agriculture, the DNR ERDB, DepEd, DTI, DOH, and DSWD. They consist the Paper Evaluation Committee. And the review and evaluation of research papers were all conducted virtually. The call for research papers started on March 18 and ended on June 5. A total of 257 abstracts were submitted, of which 6 were under the industry sector. 228 falls under the social sector, 16 under the environment sector, and 7 under agriculture sector. Majority of the abstracts received are research papers focusing on different areas in the social sector. As indicated earlier, the Paper Evaluation Committee reviewed 257 research papers, out of which 103 papers qualified for the next level of assessment, while the 62 papers submitted for poster category were automatically included in the final level of assessment for presentation. Out of the 77 papers which qualified for the second level assessment, only 70 full papers were received by the Paper Evaluation Committee. And from the 70 full papers, 68 qualified for oral presentation and evaluation. 8 papers under environment sector, 4 papers under agriculture sector, and 56 papers under social sector. The oral presentation and evaluation was conducted virtually on August 26 to 28 and September 1 to September 2. The winners of the oral presentation will be awarded later in the program. A total of 62 papers qualified for poster presentation and evaluation. 55 from the social sector, 4 from the environment sector, and 3 from the agriculture sector. The poster presentation and evaluation was conducted on September 21 to 25th. A viewer's poster choice was also conducted through DOST CALABARZON Facebook page. Only the posters of these researchers who signified to join the Facebook event were uploaded on Facebook. The winners of the poster presentation and viewers' poster choice will be announced also later in the program. And that is for the overview of the RSI forum. Now, allow me to acknowledge our guests and speakers. With us today are Dr. Felix Berto Mercado, our RRAC chairperson, Director Luis Banwa of NEDA Region 4A, Director Alexander Madrigal of DOST Region 4A also, Director Charito Armonia of PSA, also in Calabarzon, Assistant Regional Director Gina Gakusan of NEDA, Region 4A, and our guest speaker for today is Dr. Dan Lachica of SEIPI and Miss Nang Ai Min of Singapore Polytechnic College. Welcome to our 6th Calabarzon Research Statistics and Innovation Forum. The acknowledgement of participants, including the local government representatives, regional line agencies, private sector, the academic and school division offices, will be elaborated on later by our hosts. As mentioned here, the forum is also live streamed via DOST Calabarzon Facebook page. Again, thank you for being with us today at the 6th Calabarzon Research Statistics and Innovation Forum. Let's all have a very productive day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nantes. Dr. Nantes mentioned earlier that we have this responsibility on research, statistics, and innovation as part of our nation building. And it is really overwhelming that we have various representatives from both the private and the government sector, as well as representatives from the academic.
Yes, Ange, for sure it is going to be a long day for all of us. And I know you are all excited as we are. So without further ado, may we call on the Regional Director of DOST Calabarzon, Director Alexander Madrigal, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Hello, can I have my video? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Director Alexander, you are loud and clear po.
Okay, so I'll do the introduction of the speaker now. Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara is the Undersecretary for Research and Development of the Department of Science and Technology, DOST. Dr. Guevara is seconded from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she is Professor 12 at the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute, specializing in speech and audio signal processing, time frequency analysis and synthesis, and artificial intelligence. As Undersecretary for Research and Development, Dr. Guevara supervises 4 DOST councils, 7 DOST Research and Development Institutes, and the Technology Application and Promotion Institute, or TAPI. Further, Dr. Guevara oversees the management of the DOST Research and Development Funds, bilateral and multilateral linkages, and the DOST Spatial Projects Division, which provides technical and administrative support to DOST in the management of DOST Grants and Aid, or DOST GIA program. Dr. Guevara also leads the DOST Science for Change, or S4C program. Prior to her appointment as Undersecretary, Dr. Guevara served as the Executive Director of DOST PCERD from July 2012 to 2015. She was the youngest and first female Dean of the UP College of Engineering, UP Diliman, and was Executive Director of the UP National Engineering Center from 2004 to 2010. She received her BSEE, or Electrical Engineering, and Master of Science in Electrical Engineering degrees from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and her PhD in Electrical Engineering, Electronics Engineering degree from the University of Michigan. She has been the recipient of several awards in engineering and education, including the 2010 Metrobank Outstanding Teachers of the Philippines, the 2018 GAWAD Career Executive Service Presidential Award, and the 2019 Award for Continuing Excellence in Service, or ACES, from Metrobank Foundation. Let's welcome our Undersecretary for R&D, Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara.
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant day to all of you. I'm very honored to be invited to the CALABARZON Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum today. The event, spearheaded by the Regional Development Council, Regional Research and Innovation Committee, and co-hosted by DOSC Region 4A, PSA Region 4A, and CHED 4A Research Council Incorporated, is a significant event for the scientific community as it is a platform to promote research studies and strengthen the statistical capabilities of the academe, government agencies, and communities in Calabarzon. The impact of research is more pronounced today as we battle the uncertainties brought about by COVID-19. Our economy suffered a big hit due to the disruption in our health systems, our economy, and our communities. The direction of the economy is shaped by the direction of the pandemic. The impact of COVID-19, therefore, goes far beyond the disease itself. One of the biggest concerns is resilience of local businesses, most especially the status of micro, small, and medium enterprises. In Calabarzon, like most of the regions in the Philippines, small businesses form the backbone of the economy. The theme for this year's forum is Bridging Research and Innovation Towards Calabarzon's Sustainable and Inclusive Development. I believe the DOST Calabarzon, through the leadership of Dr. Alex Madrigal, has made notable activities to help businesses and communities in this area survive the challenges brought by COVID-19. From webinars to aid the emotional needs of the community, DOST also extended a 5-month loan extension to MSMEs, most specifically those who are affected by the enhanced community quarantine. Even before the pandemic, Calabarzon had already established an active innovation ecosystem partially supported by the Department of Science and Technology. Outputs of research and development, or R&D, and science and technology projects in various sectors such as disaster risk reduction, management, education, health, enterprise, livelihood, tourism, and industries shape the Calabarzon innovation ecosystem. A DOST program noteworthy is the Enhanced Community Empowerment through Science and Technology, or ESEST program. This resulted in the development of the value chain approach on island economy. In this climate of uncertainty, one thing remains clear. Accurate data provides opportunities to fight COVID-19. Every day, the statistical data on the number of active cases, recovered, and deaths dictate the movement of our lives. Research and data analysis guide lawmakers, city planners, local government units, and businesses in their decisions. The role of data gathering, analysis, research and development has taken a more central place in the resilience of our businesses, communities, and society as a whole. Thus, the objectives of the forum today play a crucial role in the development of Calabarzon. We must recognize that this challenge is much larger than the health sector alone, and that we must adapt a whole-of-government approach in creating innovative solutions. We at DOST believe that research leads innovation, and innovation drives sustainable economic growth, even in the face of a pandemic. Innovation offers avenues to overcome challenges, halting normal operations, and offers the possibility of new products or business disruptors that will succeed in the new environment. This is how R&D is making change happen in Calabarzon and in the Philippines. It is therefore imperative for us to continue to invest and prioritize R&D for the betterment of our economy and our communities. And just as we collectively face a global threat, so too must we work together in our response. Events such as this one displays the power of collaborative efforts from different government agencies. I would like to congratulate the members of the Calabarzon Regional Development Council for organizing this event. It is through our collective efforts against COVID-19 that we heal as one. Magandang agham po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you so much po, Yusek Guevara. Thank you for highlighting the role of accurate statistical data and the role of research and development and innovation in fighting this COVID-19 pandemic and the importance of those in the socio-economic recovery of the region.
And to officially extend the committee's appreciation to our keynote speaker, allow us to read the citation of our Certificate of Appreciation. Republic of the Philippines, Regional Development Council Region 4A, Regional Research and Innovation Committee, and Department of Science and Technology Calabarzon award the Certificate of Appreciation to Undersecretary Rowena Cristina L. Guevara as keynote speaker during the conduct of the 6th Calabarzon Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum, held on October 15, 2020 via Zoom video conference. Signed, RDC Chairperson Hermilando I. Mandanas, and RRIC Chairperson Felix Berto M. Mercado. Director Madrigal, maybe we can request a photo op with you. Secretariat, please. Okay, Secretariat, can we have a photo op with Director Madrigal? And maybe Ma'am Dorothy can join us as well. Okay, ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, I think the Secretariat captured that. Thank you so much, Director Madrigal.
Thank you
And
very
we
much.
are now in one of the highlights of our activity. In the next part of the session, we will be having presentations on R&D, innovation, and ICT. As a reminder to our participants, you may send your questions through the Q&A feature of this Zoom webinar.
And now, may we request the Assistant Regional Director and Regional Development Council Secretary, Director Gina Gapusan, to introduce the first plenary speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to present to you our first plenary speaker. Dr. Dan Lachica is the president of Semiconductor and Electronics Industries in the Philippines Foundation. This association employs over 3 million workers and accounts for almost 62% of the Philippine commodity export in 2019. Dr. Lachica has over 40 years of senior management experience in semiconductors, electronics, and consumer goods manufacturing, 16 of which were in semiconductor wafer manufacturing in Silicon Valley in the US. He returned to the Philippines in 1996 as the managing director of Lomega Corporation of Utah, USA. Prior to his retirement, he was senior vice president of First Philippine Holdings Corporation and concurrent president of the group's electronics and solar manufacturing companies. He is an expert in world-class initiatives such as Six Sigma, Balanced Scorecard, and Total Productive Maintenance. He has received several awards, including the Dr. Joseph Curan National Medal from the Philippine Society for Quality. He is a top 50 all-time engineering graduates of UP and outstanding electrical engineer from the University of the Philippines. He received his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from UP Diliman, master's degree in business ad from San Jose State University in California, and a doctorate degree in business administration, where he graduated with distinction from the De La Salle University. Mr. Lachica is a Philippine Science High School alumnus and a DOST National Science and Development Board Scholar in college. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome Dr. Dan Lachica.
Thank you for that kind
Thank you.
introduction. DOST Undersecretary Dr. Rowena Guevara, distinguished guests from government, the academe, public, and private sectors, good morning. Thanks again for inviting me to the 6th CALABARZON Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. My talk today will basically cover the SAPI, our industry association, an industry overview, the role of R&D in sustainable and inclusive development, the industry academe linkage framework, an academe industry partnership, our roadmap called PATS, and the research trends. We're on page 3 now. Go to page 3. All right. SAPI stands for the Semiconductor and Electronics Industries in the Philippines Foundation, Inc. It's the biggest organization of over 338 multinational and Filipino-owned companies, suppliers, allied and support industry members, and academic institutions. We have 8 networking committees covering functional areas that are vital to the success of the industry. And what I'd just like to share, because, obviously we're in the midst of COVID, we'd like to share some best practices in our industry. This one just shows pictures for shuttle buses, for our entry to building procedures and PPEs, and for workstations. You can see how clean they are. They're also called clean rooms. And we are not oblivious to the needs of our community as well. So we engage heavily in corporate social responsibility. Back in January, as you know very well, in Calabarzon, Taal volcano erupted. And so donations from safety member companies for the evacuees poured in, and it totaled about 435,000 pesos. And also, SAPI donated 1 million to the Philippine Red Cross. That's in cash, but in addition to that, we had about 37 million pesos worth of donations from generous SAPI member companies to over 100 national hospitals. The cash donations were, of course, to Malacanang Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, and so these are all for the victims, disaster victims. And this 41, well, actually the updated number is 41 million worth of donations from, and I guess the number is really 100 hospitals, 101 hospitals. And this includes PPEs and even food for the communities and frontliners. And that's in support of the fight against COVID-19. I will now go to an industry overview. The red line that you see is the electronics export, without exports, I should say, without electronics, and the blue line would be the total. So the difference between the blue and the red line would be the total electronics exports. So as you can see, the semiconductor and electronics manufacturing industry remains as the country's largest exporter. At least as far as 2019 numbers go, we were at $43.3 billion, or 61.6%. That is actually bigger than OFW remittances and BPO dollar generation in 2019. The industry key players, well, the industry is broken down into several sectors, as you can see in the left column. And the major players, just as an example, will be on the second column. I will not read through all the names, but just to give you an idea, for example, for semiconductors, we have ST Microelectronics, Texas Instruments, Maxim, and Amcor Anam. Okay, so you can just go through the rest of the sectors that we've noticed. Now, for this number shows the January to July year to date, 20.76 billion. But as of August, we had $24 billion August year to date. Market destinations are shown here. The biggest destinations, export destinations, would be Hong Kong. Although Hong Kong is essentially a hub where the products go to different parts of the world. The next biggest one is USA and China. So as you can see, between China and Hong Kong, we've had a total of 35% of the total electronics exports. As far as origins of our raw materials, origins meaning we import, shown here are the biggest countries where we import from. Taiwan, China again, obviously, and between China and Hong Kong, we have a total of 30%. And again, this was a big disruption during the COVID shutdown because, as you know, most of the supplies come from China and Hong Kong. Next page. Okay, we'll now go into the role of R&D in sustainable and inclusive development. There are three dimensions of development, and this is, source here is UNIDO Industrial Development Report, and three dimensions include economic, social, and environmental factors. For the economic factor, long-term structural change, manufacturing plays a key role. As you know, it creates many productive formal jobs at an early stage of development. It also drives technology development and innovation to sustain productivity growth in manufacturing and other sectors. Manufacturing can thus sustain growth by lengthening its episodes and reducing its volatility. The social factor, I think, go ahead and page through the, okay. We've covered the economic factor. Go to the social factor now, please. Okay. The social factor would be, well, what I've shown here is a conceptual framework promoting social inclusiveness. So you have the technological change, structural transformation, which branches out into employment and obviously income distribution, which leads to social inclusiveness and the trade-offs. For environmental, we also have here a model, again, from technological change, all the way down to structural transformation, branching out to the change in production processes and the structure, change in production structure, leading to environmental inclusiveness and trade-offs. I will then cover the industry academic linkages framework. What are our objectives? Well, we want to facilitate linkages between our regular members, the manufacturing firms, our affiliate members, meaning the universities and academic institutions. So the objectives, like I said, are to produce industry-ready graduates, to update the curricula in line with the industry's requirements and transition into Industry 4.0, and to improve the R&D environment. And just wanted to show you some academe industry partnerships that we have so far. Safety member companies and state university linkages. By the way, I wanted to acknowledge a good friend of mine, Dr. Tirso from the Batangas State University and also the president of PASO. The examples given here would be covering analog devices, Sinic Design, and semiconductors, Lattice, and Mindanao State University Iligan Campus. So these four companies have been strong partners in our partnership or linkages. For instance, Xinex Design and Services hire fresh graduates with IC design, and the Xinex Semiconductor Design Group continuous manpower pooling for annual hiring, again, of fresh graduates. Lattice Semiconductor also has an hired undergraduate and master's program. And last but not least, Analog Devices not only hires the graduates, but also provides a lab and financial sponsorship, including master's students' thesis mentorship. The next pages will show examples of what member companies have done with the State University Linkage Program. And Minebea Mitsumi by far has the biggest and widest breadth in terms of having 45 linkages with different universities all over the Philippines. Analog devices, as I mentioned, they have a linkage with UP Diliman, and essentially the intent is to develop, well, to hire the graduates and to develop the Philippine semiconductor and electronics industry. More examples, in northern Luzon, we have Texas Instruments and the University of Cordilleras. We have IMI in Calabarzon, in Santa Rosa, or Binyan, whichever. And then they have a partnership with De La Salle University through the auspices of USH Stride, and also Knowles in Cebu with the University of San Jose Recoletos. Next page. And then we'll go through the technology trends. What we have here are the global top technologies, which I'm sure you've heard of. We have artificial intelligence, cloud computing, telemedicine, big data, 5G, very popular, Internet of Things, which is actually critical also to Industry 4.0, drones, robotics, and additive manufacturing. Now, for the roadmap of the industry, we call it PATHS, otherwise known as Products and Technology Holistic Strategy. This is essentially a summary of a study made, which was funded by DTI and administered by DOST Presured. And so what this shows on the first row would be the different sectors that I mentioned. And on the columns, you will see the identified products and technologies that the Philippines should pursue to expand and further develop our electronics and semiconductor capabilities. For instance, in the first column under semiconductor, we have smart sensors for disaster detection, very, very crucial in today's age and time. We have memory chips that are going to be used for IoT. What you see on the last circle is IC design. I've mentioned a couple of IC design partnerships that we have going. And for the semiconductor space, which is actually accounting for 70% of the export value, we can't really expand that further downstream because downstream you have the wafer fabrication facility, and I think it was mentioned that I spent 16 years in Silicon Valley in semiconductor wafer fabs. The first question I was asked when I came back in 1996 was, can we build wafer fabs in the Philippines? The answer then and even today is no, until we can solve the high cost of power and poor quality. When I say poor quality, according to the standards of semiconductor wafer fabs. So the next best thing is to move up the value chain, and that is in IC design. We have about 5 or 6 companies in the Philippines, but unfortunately, we're very far off from the hundreds of IC design companies in Taiwan and thousands of talent. Hence, part of our roadmap, really, as you've seen earlier, is to develop the IC design capability among our academy. So the next thing in our roadmap is to develop IC design. Third column, consumer electronics, smartwatch, and even smartphones. As you know, Filipinos probably have 2 or 3 smartphones, but we don't have a smartphone maker here in the Philippines, just several companies who manufacture components for the A and S phones, smartphones. We wanna be able to work on IoT devices for smart agriculture. Cobots means collaborative robots, and also under medical and industrial. As you know, many of our companies have actually repurposed to focus on COVID-related products in the environment that we have today. And maybe for automotive electronics, e-vehicles are in vogue, and also for solar, we wanna be able to produce smart batteries. And last but not least, as consistent with the theme of today's forum, we want to beef up our research and development capability across all sectors, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Next page. Okay, so what we have here, what we're showing here is probably a recognizable campus, De La Salle University in Laguna. And we've inked an MOU to locate our the SAPI Science and Technology Center in the Richard Lee Engineering Building. And in addition to the future headquarters of SAPI, we've moved from Alabang to Laguna to be closer to Calabarzon, where 80% of our SAPI members are located actually. And so what we're going to have here would be 3 laboratories, as you can see in the right middle part of the screen. We have, we're going to put up an IC design lab. It should seat 30, and it's going to beef up courses in IC design courses in the universities. The good thing is De La Salle agreed that this is not going to be a monopoly of De La Salle. This is all going to be open to the public, specifically in Calabarzon. Now, earlier I said that we can't build commercial wafer fabs in the Philippines, but what behooves us is to construct a lab scale wafer fab, pretty much like what you see, for example, in Stanford University or UC Berkeley or MIT. And what this does is provide us the capability to produce the prototypes out of the designs coming out of the IC design laboratory. Today, companies and the 5 or 6 companies I mentioned have to send their Gerber files to Taiwan, for instance. And the concern with that is obviously, if you have a diplomatic row, if you have any other problems, like there's going to be, we're going to lack our design prototype build capability. So this is actually part of the roadmap. Especially for the IC design roadmap that DTI has hosted and sponsored, I should say, and DOST. We're working with DOST to administer that. The third leg would be an R&D laboratory. To this date, we actually haven't defined the capability. What is it going to be geared towards nanotechnology or IoT Industry 4.0 related? It's still in the works, at least as far as the conceptualization. So we're looking forward to working with DOST Director Madrigal to design. What we want to do really is, I know DTI and DOST have plans for regional R&D labs or fab labs in the different regions. And what we don't want to do is duplicate capabilities because, but from our intent, like I said, 80% of our electronics companies in Calabarzon, so it makes sense to have an R&D facility in Calabarzon to cater to those companies and the publics who don't have the wherewithal or the resources to build their R&D lab. So again, this is also going to be open to the public, and we're going to synergize our efforts with DOST. For instance, we don't want to duplicate the test capabilities and analytical capabilities of Admatel. So that's something that we need to work with USEC Dev and Director Madrigal and the DOST folks. So like I said, this is going to be open to the public and primarily for Calabarzon as well as the rest of the country. And the next page would show the IC design. I keep mentioning IC design because we believe that's the next best thing to grow our industry. Especially with the intellectual property. So you see here, logos of our partner companies. As I've said, we are setting up after COVID. We're not going to start this until the vaccine is commercially available, but we're going to start the construction at De La Salle campus after we have the clearance of De La Salle. And in the meantime, we've also inked MOUs in Mindanao, specifically with USTP in Cagayan de Oro, and we're also working with MSU Iligan campus. We have yet to identify a site in Cebu as well as in Luzon. Well, we've identified the institutions, but we haven't inked the MOU yet. But the intent really here is to narrow the gap or close the gap between the curriculum and the required skills in the industry, and IC design especially is one of the key courses. And just to give you an idea what's available out there for IC design, so we show here a flow chart of the IC development flow, starting of course from sales of the circuit, layouting, manufacturing, packaging, and marketing. Of course, through manufacturing and marketing, there's going to be a testing of the devices that's going to be entailed. Some of the courses that are going to be covered would be analog IC layout, introduction to digital and analog IC design, and RF integrated circuit mixed signal IC low power IC. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes my presentation. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lachica. Thank you for highlighting the role of research and innovation in sustainable and inclusive development, and sharing with us the innovation roadmap, including the technological trends, opportunities, gaps, and best practices in the semiconductor and electronics manufacturing industry. Truly, the industry has contributed to the overall socio-economic development of the country.
To officially extend the committee's appreciation, we will be awarding a certificate, and allow us again to read the citation. Republic of the Philippines, Regional Development Council Region 4A, Regional Research and Innovation Committee, and the Department of Science and Technology Calabarzon award the Certificate of Appreciation to Mr. Dan C. Lachica as plenary speaker with the paper entitled Electronics, Industry R&D and Innovation Roadmap during the conduct of the 6th Calabarzon Research, Statistics and Innovation Forum held on October 15, 2020 via Zoom video conference. Signed, our RDC Chairperson, Hermilando I. Mandanas, and our RRIC Chairperson, Felix Berto M. Mercado. Sir Dan Lachica, may we request you to please turn on your video or your camera for a photo op. Thank you.
Okay, it's on.
Okay, Secretariat, please. Already, sir? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Sir Dan.
Thank you very much.
And to introduce again the next speaker for our plenary session, may we have again the Assistant Regional Director of NEDA Region 4A, Director Gina Gakusan.
Okay, our next speaker is from Singapore, and she'll be discussing with us the research and innovation, the Singapore Polytechnic approach. Ms. Nang Aik Min is the country manager for the Philippines Singapore Polytechnic. She joined Singapore Polytechnic in 2010 as an education advisor in the Department of Educational Development. Actively involved in the conceptualization and implementation of design thinking in Singapore Polytechnic. She was involved in one of the Singapore Polytechnic signature programs called Learning Express since its beginning, infusing design thinking into an overseas social innovation program. She was part of design and development of the pedagogy and eventual rollout of Learning Express. In 2018, she joined Singapore Polytechnic International, where she continued to take the Learning Express program to greater heights, better taking research outcomes to the greater community. Beyond Learning Express, she now looks at internationalizing the Singapore Polytechnic campus through a wide array of programs, from student exchange programs to long-term consultancy projects within the region. As an industrial designer by training, she is a firm believer of the design process, where we design, try, fail early, but learn early. She treasures opportunities coming down her pathway and has taken up different trainings and research opportunities in Tanzania, Timor-Leste, Boston, and many parts of the ASEAN. She is now a country manager taking care of all partnerships between Singapore Polytechnic and various organizations and institutions in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome Ms. Nang Aik Min. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning. All right, allow me to share my screen. All right, excellent. Right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for this lovely opportunity that I am having here. That I'm speaking in the comfort of my home to a beautiful audience coming from really the vast, beautiful land of Philippines. Right. Today, I'm going to share with you something that is very uniquely Singapore Polytechnic. All right. I think earlier today I've heard Dr. Dorsey and Sir Dan share very interesting research and innovation and outcomes that really defines what youth development and education is all about. So in the next couple of minutes, I will be sharing a little bit about how we in Singapore Polytechnic are in the business of developing people, right? Developing people to then develop innovation and technology. I think that is the angle of my sharing today. Good morning once again. All right. So let me give a little bit of a background of Singapore Polytechnic. So we're the oldest polytechnic established in 1954, and that is not all compared to the many universities, many of the state universities who are seated in this Zoom call. We're just merely 66 years old, and we are the oldest polytechnic. And polytechnics were in Singapore's history set up with the intent of developing young people for industry, for workplace. And this mandate has not changed over the 60 years, the 6 decades of Singapore's development. Right? To give everyone a sense of what education looks like in Singapore, essentially, we in the Polytechnic, we take students who have completed 6 years of primary education, followed by approximately 4 to 5 years of secondary education. That's approximately 10 years of mandated public education before we then welcome them in the polytechnics. All right. We welcome them in the polytechnics as post-secondary students, and polytechnic students comes in, right, with zero skill sets coming from the industry. They come in with general education skill sets, your English, your mathematics, your science, and etc. However, Polytechnic's mandate is to prepare our young people for work or for university, right? So for work, I mean, over the many years of Singapore's development, more and more of our Polytechnic graduates have also sought higher credentials, such as moving into master's programs and etc. But essentially, the Polytechnic's mandate is really to prepare young people for the industry, and preparing them for the industry doesn't stop them from coming back to school. All right. So here in Singapore Polytechnic, we are a multidisciplinary college. We are multidisciplinary, which also means that we offer course disciplines across your applied sciences, your architecture and built environment, business, engineering, humanities, and etc. Yes, we started being very strong in engineering, and that's also because, as we built our nation, we needed technicians, we needed civil engineers. But over the years, as we expanded into the health sciences and humanities, the Polytechnic has grown and has stayed true to the needs of the country. So today we offer, apart from full-time diploma courses, we also offer more than 200 part-time continuing education. And these are certification courses for the adult audience, right? So people like you and I, right? It's always about a lifelong learning mandate that we in education are looking at. Yes, we might be practicing as engineers for the last 20 years, but how do we keep ourselves abreast in today's development? So we offer more than 200 part-time continuing education courses, and that takes approximately 1/5 of our student population. And what is our mission? I think, as I've shared in the last couple of slides, you have a good sense that really it's about preparing our students, whether young or old, really for life, for work, and really for the world. Today the world is complex, but it's really about preparing our young people for the world. And I will be talking a little bit more about the VUCA world in the next couple of slides. Right. So this is our Polytechnic mission. And really, for us to achieve our mission, and really to keep ourselves relevant, that's where international and industry exposure becomes key in the way we design our programs. I'm going to share one of SP's signature program, right, called the Learning Express. I think the lovely speaker who introduced me earlier shared about the Learning Express program. So here in SP, we firmly believe that developing young people is not about cooping them in the classroom. It's not about content knowledge. Yes, content is important. However, the experience matters. The experience of teaching and learning matters. And the Learning Express program is one of SP's signature programs where Singapore Polytechnic students collaborate with regional colleges to develop solutions guided by the innovation process called design thinking. You know, I'm sure, you know, seated in this Zoom call, I've got faculty members coming from, if I'm not mistaken, 5 state universities and colleges, and one of them, my very good friend, Batangas State University. You know, I'm sure a lot of us as faculty members would have this experience where we get our students to be creative. Look, let's be creative. I want innovation. But look, the ideas are just run of the mill. Let's ask ourselves, right? How do we get our students to be innovative, right? And that is where the Learning Express program becomes something that's very powerful for us because it puts together a multidisciplinary group of young people, not just multidisciplinary, multinational, multicultural. Remember, I shared about collaborating with the region. Yes, Singapore students collaborate with Filipino students, collaborate with Vietnamese students. We throw this group of students who don't know each other into a unknown community for them to then come up with solutions guided by this innovation process called design thinking. I think this is where Sir Dan mentioned about industry readiness. That really resonated with SP's mandate. It's really about preparing students for the industry, and in the workplace, do we get to choose our colleagues? We don't. And therefore, a multidisciplinary work group where we force them to come together to really bond overnight before coming up with solutions truly is what the Learning Express program does, right? So it is a four-prong. Give me a minute. Let me just pull this screen away. All right. It is a four-prong process, right? Of which our students goes through the 4 phases of the design thinking process, right? Sense and sensibility, empathy, ideation, and prototype. So for the sense and sensibility, right? It's about preparing the mind. It's about preparing the context. It's about getting our students ready for the project, right? If the project is about working with farmers, look, our students should not go in with no knowledge about farming, right? Especially so in my Singapore context where our students may not have seen, running chickens with feathers, right? So that's where we prepare our minds to get them to do desktop research before throwing them in the community, where we then get our students to understand the stakeholders, define the needs, right? And how best do we get our students to understand the users? It's about interviewing them. It's about getting them to speak to the community, spending time in the community. Next, it's about after gathering information, right? Information from the internet, desktop research, getting information from primary sources like the farmers, like the LGUs, like the ladies who are very much involved in the farming process. That's where we then take our students out from the community and then put them together in this space where they then get to be creative. I think this is really where the beauty of working with a multidisciplinary team is. It's where they come up with ideas, solutions to fulfill the user needs before then building a prototype. I think a lot of us in universities here, building prototypes and ideas are nothing new. But it's really the first 2 stages of sense and sensibility and empathy that really, truly makes a difference to the solutions. You know, solutions that truly impact the community and not about coming out with a solution that they dream of. The Learning Express program has grown very excitingly across ASEAN and now beyond ASEAN in Japan and Taiwan and Pingtung as well. And of course, not forgetting all my friends in the Philippines. here in the Philippines. We are all across the island. We're humbly up in the northern areas where Isabela State is, all the way down south to the USTP, University of Science and Tech in Southern Philippines. In fact, USTP is our flagship partner to have taken the Learning Express program into the Philippines world map. So I'd like to share a little humble success of our Learning Express program through a video. Please let me know if there are technical challenges. There is audio, so if there's no audio, can perhaps I see Dr. Dorothy on my screen. If there's something that's not right, please wave your hand and let me know if it's not right. I'm gonna play this video clip. The audio, yes.
Shala, where are we going?
We're going to see a tomato farm.
How far is the farm?
5 minutes only there.
Oh,
Gila, come faster. Let's do this.
you go tomato farm for what?
To see my project.
See your project?
Yep.
You do project here?
Yes, to Lex.
You fly all the way from Singapore to Philippines to see tomato?
No, I was on the Learning Express.
What's Learning Express? You send me here, I also don't know come here for what. Come find you I thought we'd go holiday, you know?
No, Learning Express is a program offered by Singapore Polytechnic. And basically what we do is that we use design thinking to solve social problems with partner universities.
So tell me more about like how this whole project actually started from your end.
So during my Learning Express, I was given the opportunity to be a leader to lead this whole tomato jam project.
So how do you guys actually even start to think about a jam product instead of like maybe something else? Like why jam?
There was already a product of tomato jam, but there was no shelf life and it was unsustainable. So when we took on this project, our whole idea and what we were supposed to do was to improve the shelf life, make it better tasting, and of course, if it's possible, to sell it so that the ladies can actually have a better chance at making money. Isabela mainly grows vegetation and crops, so when there is high season for tomatoes, there's so much that many of them go to waste.
So Charlotte, tell me what they're doing.
Okay, so these are the ladies that actually started the project with me since 2017.
So what's the process like for this whole sequence and project itself?
Right, so now what they're doing is they're actually peeling the tomatoes and coring it. What we can do is we can help them. So shall we? Let's go.
So how long does the process usually take to finish the whole?
2 hours.
2 hours. 2 hours.
Yes. The reason why I created this name called Binhi for the whole company, or rather for these ladies, was because Binhi in Tagalog means seed. And then now in March 2019, we have Sabrina and Felicia coming back to water my seeds, and they have created 5 new recipes.
I'm Felicia.
And I'm Sabrina.
And we're from Food Science and Technology.
We have this module called Food Product Development and Design, and we spent 15 weeks coming up with the 5 recipes. So after we came here, we co-created the recipes with our ISU partners.
The members of the association also develop a lot in terms of their social skills, mainly because they used to be shy people when there are visitors who come around, but with their involvement in the Learning Express program, I noticed that they became more sociable, and that also strengthened their unity as a women organization. It has empowered them.
Ako si Felicitas G. Bulayang, nakatira dito sa Marcos Rojas, Isabela, 51 years old. Sa ngayon, nararamdaman ko na sila talagang willing na rin kasi nakikita nila ang potential na kapag kami may pagkakaisa, talagang tuloy-tuloy na yan. And nasisiyan naman sila, ma'am. Maganda kasi parang yan sa isip ko lang kapag magtuloy-tuloy talaga yan, may sufficient na pagkakakitaan. Masaya ako dahil maraming tumutulong din na nagpapa-excite sa akin, kumbaga parang
my gosh, this looks like a party.
Yes, this is a celebration of 3 years of hard work. It's like watching my baby grow up from like a little toddler all the way to adulthood. We have evolved from just one recipe, which is my original tomato jam, to 5 new recipes.
Oh my gosh, looking at all the food, it's making me so hungry.
You want to try? Let's go.
Oh my god, that is your baby right there.
Yeah.
Let's dig in. Now I have one.
Thank you.
And I'll have one too. Here we go. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. So what made you so willing to give up so much of your time to even like invest in this?
It's the people here, because the people here are so nice to you that you feel like you have known them your whole life, and you feel like you just want to help them and give up your time for them.
So honestly, on a personal opinion side, would you recommend this to like the students that have not been to Lex, or like what would you actually say to them if you have a chance to?
Lex is something that every student should go to.
Okay.
Not because it's sponsored by the school, but because it's a cultural immersion program that teaches you things that the school books don't teach you.
All right. And so it is really not about the technology. And that's something that we constantly are getting our students to understand. It's not about the technology. Yes, the technology is important. It is a key component in the success of a project. But it's really about the people that makes things happen, right? From students to program organizers, administrators like you and I, collaborating with the various partners from the agencies. I think this is really where the success of this tomato project really is attributed to. As we speak, I do know that our friends from Isabella State University are continuing this project. They are looking at getting the FDA certificates for the products, getting it commercially produced and going to be sold on the supermarket shelf. I think that's really the beauty, where our young people putting on that creative minds, creative hats, takes ideas, plants the seeds of the ideas, and then the local community takes it forward. And I think that's Learning Express has been really our pride and honor, together with partners like Batangas State University, who has been with us for the last 3 years. But then came COVID. Before COVID came the eruption of the Ta'au volcano, right? So it's not just about COVID. I think the world today is indeed VUCA, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, from social unrest to natural disasters in the middle of the screen, and that I think is the Ta'au volcano's eruption, and of course now to COVID, the pandemics. I think now we welcome the world in masks. I'm glad to be speaking without a mask because I'm at home. But if I'm on the campus, you probably wouldn't see my face. I think the world today has provided new challenges, especially in the world of traveling. And where my office comes from, the international office, it's amazing because we can't travel, and it's amazing how do we then internationalize the campus without physically traveling, right? Disruptions to travel equates to restricted access to communities, right? And I think this is where technology becomes our friend. Yes, technology has been challenging, but I think with COVID, accelerated by COVID, we managed technology to bring them from being an enemy to a friend. Here in SP right now, yes, we love our Learning Express program, but the matter of fact is that we cannot replicate Learning Express on a digital platform. But here, that's where we see the new norm. We see the new norm where we talk about taking programs online, digital exchange that are weather resistant, not just about COVID, not just about Ta'au, also about the other various challenges that restricts travel. And when we take content online, we then remove the constraints of the school term. That's where we can then increase our engagement frequency with our partners within Singapore and with our region. There's no need to travel, and therefore weather resistance. And that's where we can then potentially reach out to territories that are further, that are traditionally deemed unsafe, and therefore taking our students to more uncharted territories. And therefore, that's another opportunity for us to deepen our engagement and partnerships, where funding becomes lesser evil. So here in Singapore Polytechnic, we are moving online, and we are using online exchange opportunities to deepen this international experience. This is where we carefully curate global learning content about the region, whether it's SDG, culture, regulatory, or it could be content related, chemical engineering, etc. And that is where SP and our host partner facilitators jointly facilitate the student learning experience. And the beauty here is that because it's online, it's not just about Singapore and the Philippines. It could be a Singapore, Philippines, and Vietnam, for example. And that's where we can then bring up about a even colorful, multifaceted perspective in the topics that is going to be discussed. And I believe this is nothing new to all of us, right? I'm sure you have been meeting your students and your colleagues for the last couple of months. I have been. This is actually a online student exchange program between Singapore and Japan with the Institute of Technology in Kanazawa, and we have excellent learning opportunities here. We felt that our students got very excited. Yes, there was this issue of virtual, where we don't get the physical touch, but really it made the discussions very colorful. And therefore, I'd like to share with you another one of our signature programs here in Singapore Polytechnic. It's called Singapore from Your Home, so SP from Your Home. We don't reckon leisure travels to resume in the next couple of months. To be honest, I just saw, I was just reading the papers this morning before the call, and our minister, the transport minister in Singapore, was just talking about how leisure travels could potentially resume only in 2022. Potentially, we don't have the crystal ball, but our best guess is really 2022. So are we, keeping our students back at home without exposing them to the international world? I think the answer is no. The answer is really no. And here we are rolling out our a digital exchange program, where it is a cultural exchange program where students sit in the SP classroom. You sit at home and you sit in the SP classroom to learn, to share, and to exchange insights about the Philippines and learn about Singapore from various fronts, right? So that's where technology comes in. So key highlights, obviously making friends, forming networks for future collaborations. I'm sure legs will fly again. In fact, last Friday, we just organized our Learning Express conference online. It's amazing to meet our hundreds of friends, faculty members online. But indeed, forming new networks for future collaborations. It's about understanding the Singapore story. How did Singapore evolve? Sir Dan talked about semiconductor. Yes, semiconductor was really key in the development of Singapore's early days of industrialization, right? So really understanding how Singapore has moved on from the semiconductor industry to really innovation-driven type of industry, right? Understanding the ASEAN mosaic. I think we all fall in this huge family of ASEAN, understanding the similarities and differences. And at the end of the day, have something back at your something to reward your effort or your students' effort, program, badges. So how it could look like is this: a series of synchronous and asynchronous exchange opportunities where your students comes in perhaps in weekly, perhaps 3 to 4 weekly sessions, wrapping up on potentially the 4th or the 5th synchronous session, and a variety of topics from understanding ASEAN to cross-cultural diversity to how SDGs can be applied to our universities and even languages. I think this is where COVID and technology is getting all of us as educators in Singapore Polytechnic to really build connections, sustain the connections, but at the same time keeping teaching and learning relevant. Keeping teaching and learning relevant such that we then continue to develop industry-ready graduates through effective pedagogy, effective programs that keeps up to our VUCA role. And with this, I end my sharing, a very, very short and humble sharing. I know that it's going to be very challenging to run a question and answer session. So this is my email. I'm going to keep this slide here for the next couple of seconds while the host takes over. Please connect with me. My name is Min, and that's my email. More than happy to have an extended conversation to all of you in the Philippines. And thank you very much. Please stay safe and all the best to the rest of your conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Min. Ms. Min, you highlighted that developing young people is not just through content knowledge, but also or largely through experience, let's say immersion in the community and allowing the students to initiate innovation. So we really appreciate your sharing of the design thinking approach of the Learning Express program. And of course, one of your best practices in the Singapore Polytechnic. Ms. Min, actually one of the main concerns often be raised as we discuss academia and industry linkage is on how we develop the soft skills of our students. And as mentioned in the video presentation, the Learning Express program really helped empower them. Definitely our participants, especially in the academe, learned a lot from your presentation. And we also would like to thank you for highlighting the challenges faced by the program and the Singapore Polytechnic and how it copes with the new norm.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Min, and please accept the certificate of appreciation for serving as a plenary speaker with the paper entitled Research and Innovation, the Singapore Polytechnic Approach. Ms. Min, please turn on your camera for the photo op. Secretariat, please. I think we got it, ano? So at this moment, we will proceed to the next presenter. We will request the Assistant Regional Director of NED Region 4A, Director Gina Gafusan, to introduce the next speaker.
Okay, our next speaker is Director Charito Armonia of the Philippine Statistics Authority of CALABARZON. Ms. Director Armonia received her bachelor's degree in statistics from UP Diliman as a state scholar, and in 1999, she obtained her master's degree in survey methodology from the University of Maryland in US as an USAID scholar. Director Armonia is the Vice Chair of the Regional Statistics Committee of the CALABARZON RDC. She was awarded the Best RSI or the Regional Statistics Committee Award for Luzon and Best RSI Award overall during the 2019 RSI Summit. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Director Charito Armonia.
Director Luigi Banwa, ARD Gina D. Gakusan, Dr. Felix M. Mercado, USEC Rowena Cristina L. Guevara, Director Alexander R. Madrigal, to all the presenters, guests, and participants. Good morning to all of you. The Philippine Statistics Authority is truly grateful to be invited in this 6th CALABARZON Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum with the theme Bridging Research and Innovation towards CALABARZON's Sustainable and Inclusive Development. As part of the program, I will be presenting the 2017 Survey on Information and Communication Technology, or SICT.
The Philippine Statistics Authority is the primary statistical arm of the government mandated to periodically conduct censuses and surveys in order to produce statistics or data that could be used for policy formation and program development to improve the lives of the Filipinos. One of the establishment surveys being conducted by the PSA is the Survey on Information and Communication Technology, or SICT. For this video presentation, the results of the 2017 SICT will be discussed and presented. The primary objective of the SICT is to collect and generate information on the availability, distribution, and access or utilization of information and communications technology among establishments in the country. Specifically, the survey measures the following. In support to the development of statistics in ICT and e-commerce, SICT surveys were conducted as a rider to the annual survey of the Philippine Business and Industry, or ASPBI. The first SICT was done in collaboration with the Information and Communication Technology and E-commerce Council of the Office of the President in 2002. Thereafter, starting on the second survey in 2008, the reference year was used in naming the survey. For 2017 SICT, it was conducted in 2018 and it is the 7th SICT survey. This coming November 2020, the 2019 SICT will be conducted, again as a rider of the ASPBI. The 2017 SICT is a nationwide survey with region as domain. It utilizes stratified systematic sampling design with the 5-digit Philippine Standard Industry Classification, serving as first stratification variable and employment size as the second stratification variable. A total of 9,542 sample establishments were selected for the survey. For the purpose of the survey, these sampled industries were classified as core ICT industries and non-core ICT industries. Core ICT industries were industries comprising the information economy, or IE, while industries which only use ICT as support to their main activity is classified under non-core ICT industries. The core ICT industries are classified into two, namely ICT sector and the content and media sector. Industries under ICT sector are industries which fulfill and are enabled by electronic means the processing, communication, transmission, and display of information. On the other hand, industries under content and media sector are those which produce goods and services primarily intended to inform, educate, entertain humans through mass communication media. Establishments engaged in the core ICT industries were completely enumerated regardless of employment size. The establishments classified in the non-core ICT industries and with a total employment of 20 and over were covered on a 20% sampling basis for each of the industry domain at the national level. A total of 3,648 establishments under the information economy was estimated in 2017. Of these establishments, 76% of the establishments were engaged in ICT, and the remaining 24% were in content and media sector. Most of the industries belonging in the information economy were ICT service industries, which comprise 58.3%. Across regions, most IE establishments were located in the NCR with 46.8% share, followed by CALABARZON with 11.2%. In the region, nearly all of these IE establishments, or 99.5%, owned and used computers and communication equipment in their business operations in 2017. This was higher by 0.7 percentage point than the 98.8% reported in 2015. Majority, or 98.3% of the IE establishments had internet connection or access in 2017. This was higher by 2.1 percentage points than the 96.2% 2015 result. In terms of the use of Internet for government transactions, the highest in 2017 was downloading or requesting government forms, followed by obtaining information from government organizations. Compared with the 2015 results, completing forms online or sending completed forms and making online payments to government transactions increased in percentage. On presence of website among IE establishments in 2017, 43.7% of IE establishments in our country had their own website. About 31.8 and 6.6% of the IE establishments in the region had intranet and extranet respectively. For e-commerce by internet in the region, 1 in 5 of the IE establishments had e-commerce transactions by internet in 2017. 21.3% of IE establishments used cellular mobile phones for business transaction in 2017. This result was higher by 9.3 percentage points than the proportion reported in 2015 at 12.0%. On the number and proportion of employees in 2017, there were 394,863 employees from the IE establishments for the whole country. Of this number, majority is in ICT sector, which is 92.5%. CALABARZON region had the highest number of employees involved in information economy with 38%, followed by National Capital Region with 37% and Central Visayas with 13.2%. In 2017, 63.8% of the employees of IE establishments use computers routinely at work. This was higher by 15.9 percentage points than the 47.9% proportion in 2015. For CALABARZON, 52.8% of the employees of IE establishments use computers routinely at work. 57.2% of the employees in IE establishments in our country use computers with internet routinely at work, while for the region, the estimate is lower at 45.6%. In the region, 3 in 5 of the IE establishments use the internet to obtain information from other organizations. Establishments who use internet for sharing or distribution of information with other organizations and sharing or distribution of information within the establishment had shares of 42 and 43% respectively. Nearly half use the internet for finance accounting and auditing. Compared with the national estimates, the regional estimates of establishments which use internet for obtaining information from other organizations and for internal or external recruitment is higher than the national.
Thank you very much, Director Armonia, for sharing the 2017 survey on information and communications technology. The survey will be helpful in the assessment of the access and utilization of ICT among establishments in the country. Under the new normal, access to ICT is necessary as the private, government, and academic sector has shifted to online transactions for safety measures against COVID-19.
And ma'am, as we award the Certificate of Appreciation, may we request you to please turn on your camera. Regional Development Council, RRIC, and DOST Calabarzon award the Certificate of Appreciation to Director Charito Armonia as plenary speaker with the paper entitled 2017 Survey on Information and Communication Technology during the conduct of the 6th Calabarzon Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. Again, signed by our RDC Chairperson, Mr. Hermelando I. Mandanas, and our RRIC Chairperson, Mr. Felix Berto M. Mercado. Secretariat, may we request a photo op with Director Armonia? Okay, I think the Secretariat got the photo. We are now done with our plenary presentations. In the overview of the forum, Dr. Nantes mentioned that the committee conducted a call for research papers in the following sectors. So we have social sector, environment and natural resource, and agriculture. And maybe the most awaited part of the program is the announcement of the best paper.
Yes, Angela, and out of the 103 papers qualified for the second level of assessment, 70 opted to compete in the oral presentation, from which 68 qualified for the final level of evaluation. And a total of 51 oral presenters joined the online evaluation via Zoom, which was conducted on August 26 to 28 and September 1 and September 2.
Meanwhile, 62 of the 103 research entries opted to compete in the poster competition. Virtual presentations and Q&A were also conducted between September 21 to September 25, 2020, which was joined by 45 poster presenters. The papers were evaluated by the panel of evaluators. We have Mr. Gamilzar, Dean of Department of Agriculture, Mr. Ricardo B. Cachuela Jr. of BIFAR, we also have Ma'am Lucena U. Mercado of DANR ERDB, Mr. Mark Elgin A. Libao of DOST Calabarzon. We also have Ms. Hazel M. Balbastro of DSWD Calabarzon, Mr. Lupel B. Gueta of CHED, and Dr. Junar M. Sadsad of Department of Education. We also have Mr. Carlos S. Dahao of DTI and Dr. Maria Celia P. Balagot of DOH. I believe it was a tough task for the evaluators to choose the best paper, and we actually requested some to be presented in today's forum. Maybe we can just request the Secretariat to provide our participants with the list of the paper presented or submitted to the committee. But without further ado, let's begin with the social sector. To present to us the best paper under the social sector category entitled Efficacy of Brain Spotting in Ameliorating PTSD Symptoms Among Filipino Residential Patients, we have Mr. Teofilo Palsimon Jr. of Department of Health Region 4A.
Hello, can I be heard now? Hello, can I be heard now?
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good morning. My name is Teofilo Palsimon Jr. and I'm now presenting to you my study titled Efficacy of Brain Spotting in Ameliorating PTSD Symptoms Among Filipino Residential Patients. Next, please. Where you look affects how you feel. This is the foundational premise of a relatively new neurophysiologically based treatment for trauma and other related disorders, a technique developed by David Grant from the amalgamation of the two renowned trauma treatment, the EMDR by Shapiro and somatic experiencing by Levine. Brain spotting departs from the usual verbal therapy because of its unique ability to access the brainstem components of the trauma memory. This technique recognizes the relevance and correlation of eye position to neurological and emotional experience, hence the foundational premise was lifted. On this slide, you can see the actual depiction of the brain spotting session. It is as an ever-evolving model. It does not only employ but also encourages the integration of any available resources to enhance the therapeutic experience, some of which are the bilateral sounds, the pointer, and the specialized goggles. Next, please. There are scientific theories that support how brain spotting works. First is the theoretical perspective presented by Corrigan and Grant that demonstrates the model for the neurological pathway of brain spotting, which involves the recruiting of the midbrain for accessing and healing sensory motor memories of traumatic activation. The brain spot, or the relevant eye position associated with the emotional activation of trauma, is primarily supported by neurological bases, Research has shown that the attunement and focus to physical cues such as microsaccades or the minuscule movement of the eyes and its relevant position are essential in accessing the trauma memory. Then finally, brain spotting has been linked with the novel understanding and theories associated with somatic engagement, body resource orientation, and neurological trauma treatment, which are all parallel to the theory of Levine's somatic experiencing. Next, please. This paper aims to, next slide, please. This paper aims to examine the efficacy of brain spotting in ameliorating PTSD symptoms among Filipino residential patients across 3 time points: the pre-treatment, post-treatment, and follow-up. The paper also explores the treatment experience of the participants and which treatment components and therapeutic processes the participants attributed to target outcomes. Next slide, please. To provide the basis of the treatment efficacy, the current study employed mixed method sequential explanatory design guided by the strategy of Creswell and Clark. In the quantitative phase, one group pre-test post-test with delayed post-test quasi-experimental design was used to establish and determine causal change among different conditions. Different versions of gold standard measures, such as the clinician-administered PTSD Scale 5 and the PTSD Checklist 5 were administered to individuals with trauma exposure. The sample comprised of 13 participants who incurred severe interpersonal trauma and have been suffering markedly elevated PTSD symptoms for at least 2 years. They received 3 sessions of brain spotting guided by the standard manual and were assessed at 3 time points. And to supplement the quantitative findings, semi-structured interviews explored the participants' experiences before, during, and after the treatment. The data were analyzed using statistical tools and thematic analysis, respectively. Next slide, please. During the pre-experimental phase, the residential patients were assessed using the measures. Individuals with no previous trauma exposure did not proceed to further examination. The residential patients who were qualified underwent medical screening and vital signs monitoring to ensure and monitor the existing health conditions of the clients. In the experimentation phase, the brain spotting treatment comprised of individual weekly sessions for 3 weeks as endorsed by the preliminary efficacy study in 2015. The treatment adherence was examined and monitored weekly in group supervision with a doctorate clinical psychologist and experts in the treatment protocol. In the post-experimentation phase, using the same measures, post-test evaluation was administered after the final brain spotting session. And heeding the advice of experts and health researchers in clinical trials, the delayed post-test evaluation was administered 2 weeks after the post-test evaluation. In-depth, semi-structured interviews were facilitated individually, as well as the therapeutic debriefing and desensitizing were also facilitated individually by the interventionist to assure that other concerns and issues involving or as a result of the experiment were identified and addressed. The major result was self-report post-traumatic stress symptoms and was analyzed using repeated measures ANOVA with a greenhouse Geyser correction. Furthermore, post hoc test using the Bonferroni correction was also employed to confirm where the differences occurred across conditions and to avoid type 1 error. The 6-stage thematic analysis process developed by Braun and Clark was also conducted to reinforce quantitative findings and gain an in-depth analysis of the qualitative data. Next slide, please. For the result of this study, it shows that there is a difference in the levels of PTSD symptoms measured by PCL5 and CAPS5 in 3 time points. The total scores of the participants on post-test and delayed post-test are lower when compared to the baseline scores. A slight reduction can also be noted 2 weeks after the therapy, and similar results were also found or observed for the overall scores of CAPS-5. And the fine-grained analysis revealed that the differences are statistically significant with a large effect size. Next, please. For the post-hoc analysis using the Bonferroni correction indicated that the difference is only significant on all clusters between the baseline and post-test scores, as well as the baseline and the delayed post-test scores. And as a whole, the null hypothesis was not accepted. From severe PTSD diagnosis, all participants were assessed with an absent to mild PTSD after the session. For the qualitative results, next slide. Before undergoing treatment, the participants have chronically endured disrupted autonomic regulation, which involves an extreme emotional response to intrusive memories and reminders of trauma, alterations in arousal and reactivity, chronic sleep disturbance, and decreased appetite. They further complained of chronic pain conditions, self-neglect or deteriorated self-care, and injury from self-destructive coping mechanism, which were categorized as the negative physical and physiological consequences of PTSD. According to the participants, they have indicated in the interview, takot po ako sa mens. Sobrang takot na takot ako sa regla ko. Kaya pag nagkakaroon ako ng period, sobrang hindi ako tumitingin. Tapos namamawis po ako. Tapos para nanginginig yung katawan ko. Pag may period, dati po umiiyak talaga ako habang naliligo. At sobrang hirap po, lalo na sa sobrang pagparteng may period ako. Hindi po ako ilang sa kaedad ko, pero yung sasabihin yung mga kaedad ng tito ko, iwas na po ako. Namamawis, nanginginig. Parang pag nakikita ko yung gano'n, nakatulad ng tito ko, bumabalik po agad sa akin yung flashback, bumabalik yung pangyayari, ayaw ko pong dumikit sa mga lalaki kasi naaalala ko tito ko. No? Diring-diri ako sa sarili ko, pag naliligo ako, duming-dumi ako sa sarili ko, naiisip ko, hindi na maaalis yun sa akin. No? This is just one among the testimonies of the participants. Next, please. Okay, in this study, the participants further endorsed responses indicating a strong preference to the brain spotting methods, which they commonly describe as motivational but non-invasive in approach. The participants confirmed that these methods, particularly resource orientation and the bilateral stimulation, have been relevant to their inner neural and emotional experience during the treatment. And there has been also a communal agreement among the participants that the attributes of the therapist and the therapeutic relationship were found to be a vital factor in the establishment of personal safety, in the reprocessing of their traumatic experience, and ultimately in the treatment outcome. According to them, habang nakatingin po ako sa ganon, no, sabi ko po, sige po. Habang nakatitig po ako, parang gumagaling ako. Yung music, natutulungan po ako maglabas ng galit, parang pumapasok siya sa kung saan ko nararamdaman yung galit. Doon sa music, habang pinakikinggan ko, nilalabas ko yung galit, gumagaan po yung pakiramdam ko kasi lumalabas na yung galit. No? Next slide. The participants identified 3 broad categories of perceived benefits from the treatment, which include perceived positive changes in self, positive insights drawn from the treatment, and improvement in interpersonal relationships. According to them, kahit nagkakaroon ako ng period po ngayon, hindi na po ako natatakot. Parang normal na po sa akin na nagkakaregla buwan-buwan. Parang normal na po sa akin, komportable na po ako sa kung ano po ang meron ako ngayon. Wala na pong pangamba, yung ilag ko sa tao, wala na rin po yung nginig. Hindi ko na rin po napapanaginipan kahit isipin ko yung nangyari. Lumalabas lang sa isip ko yung nandun ako sa lugar na yon, pero pag nangyayari na, wala na, hindi na po nagpapakita. Parang nawalan ako ng tinik sa lalamunan. Alam mo yung kumain ka ng isda, tapos natinik ka, tapos hindi mo siya matanggal. Pagkatapos ng therapy, ang luwag na. Di na ako natatakot, di na ako laging kinakabahan. Ngayon, parang kalmado na lang ako. Wala na yung dating panginginig na parang hinahabol po yung hininga ko at sobrang gaan na. No? Next slide, please. For the limitations of the study, only short-term effects of brain spotting were examined in this study. There is an absence of control group and randomized assignment, relatively small sample size, and small number of cases under observation in this study. But there are also the strong points of the study, such as it was able to meet the 4 of 7 gold standards for a treatment outcome study. It was able to derive a baseline data using a self-report measure and gold standard structured interviews. The inter-rater reliability was almost perfect. The extensive practice and training of the researcher in assessment and trauma-informed interviewing was very evident, and low variability of participants due to the strict inclusion and exclusion criteria. Next slide, please. For the conclusion of the study, the findings evince that brain spotting therapy is effective in ameliorating PTSD symptoms of residential patients in the study. After the 3 brain spotting sessions, all participants were assessed with an absent to mild PTSD symptoms. And noteworthy, the treatment yielded sustained reductions in symptoms even after the intervention phases. The themes generated from the analysis of participants' treatment experience validated the neurophysiological basis and phenomenological model of brain spotting and further established its efficacy in the discharge of trauma sequelae and facilitation of homeostasis. Next slide, please. These are the recommendations: higher percentage and more diverse group of clients. Independent evaluators may be included in the future research. Follow-up data to obtain knowledge about maintenance of treatment effects. Conducting comparative study on the brain spotting treatment benefits to medication. Cost evaluation between medication treatment and brain spotting treatment, and research method that involves EEG and brain imaging. And also, this is very important, utilize brain spotting therapists who had been fully trained in brain spotting and experienced in dealing with severe traumatic memories. Next slide, please. This study was able to bridge the gap on the scant literature about PTSD and practice of psychotherapy in the Philippines. The solid evidence of this treatment efficacy study can now inform the efforts of other provider organizations in seeking to adopt an evidence-based approach to trauma treatment. And during our current situation in this COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a communal agreement that brain spotting in COVID-19 pandemic situation is really effective, because that it involves no physical touching and relies on the strength of the relational attunement between the therapist and the client. And this attunement can be easier to achieve through the online video format because the therapist can focus on client's eyes and face without the distraction of the physical space. Next slide, please. For to end my presentation, next slide. I will end my presentation by telling you about the Japanese practice of kintsugi, wherein fractures are being repaired using varnish or resin powdered with gold. It follows that the breakages or wound and repairs should be shown and not hidden. And in essence, our imperfections are our wounds in need of healing. When we own them and take responsibility for them, we can start the process of healing. And by manifesting its transformation, the scars beautify the object. The wound is the place where the light enters you. In other words, the transformation is not just about putting the pieces of one's broken life back together. It's about a total reinvention of self in which our shattered pieces are alchemized into a beautiful, thriving masterpiece. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Palsimon, for presenting the best paper for the social sector and contributing to the limited resources on PTSD and practice of psychometry in the Philippines, psychotherapy in the Philippines. Now, to proceed or to present the best paper for the agriculture sector entitled molluscicidal activity of Amorseco leaf decoction against golden apple snail, may we call on Mr. Claire Gerald Villas from Senior High School in San Nicolas 3, Bacoor City.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Claire Gerald Villas from SHS in San Nicolas 3, Bacoor City, City Schools Division of Bacoor. In behalf of my co-authors, Jaime Luis Silvestre, Neil Gabriel Camoral, and LRC Balsomo, I am here to proudly present our project entitled Molluscicidal Activity of Crucipogon esculatus, Leaf Decoction against Pomosea canaliculata golden apple snail. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Pomosea canaliculata, commonly known as golden apple snail, previous slide. Pomosea canaliculata, commonly known as golden apple snail, is a freshwater mollusk that commonly found in rice paddies, taro patches, and other bodies of water. The golden apple snail was introduced here in the Philippines as a food item and also a meal for fish and shrimp. However, due to its voracious appetite and extensive reproduction, it resulted to a drastic devastation in agricultural systems. Golden apple snail has become a serious pest in rice and other agricultural crops. It can completely destroy 1 square meter of rice field overnight, so it was a major loss for our economy and especially for the agricultural sector. Next slide, please. In Southeast Asia, the government advises the farmers to use molluscicides such as niclosamide and metaldehyde to suppress the golden apple snail. However, it was harmful not only for the environment but also to the human health. To address the situation, other studies have shown importance of plant extracts as alternative molluscicide. Here in the Philippines, they use Cymbopogon citratus, commonly known as lemongrass, as an alternative molluscicide. However, lemongrass is used a food condiment, so we came up on an idea using a local plant, which is the Crucipogon esculatus, that was more economical and practical because it has no major use in the industry and it was abundant, especially here in Cavite, to suppress the golden apple snail. Next slide, please. The study was conducted to determine the molluscicidal activity of Crucipogon esculatus leaf decoction against Pomosea caniculata. It was sought to answer the following. 1. What are the bioactive components present in the leaf decoction of Crucipogon esculatus amorseco? 2. What is the percentage mortality of Pomosea caniculata golden apple snail after the application of A. 25, B. 50, C. 75, and D. 100% Crucipogon esculatus leaf decoction, E. Metaldehyde wettable powder, and F. Niclosamide wettable powder. Next slide, please. 3. Is there a significant difference between the mortality of small and large Pomosea caniculata at various concentrations? This study will give the agricultural sector, specifically the local farmers, the idea of using botanical control to terminate the golden apple snail. Utilizing the amorseco will lessen the capital of the farmers, so their income will be increased, and also it will be significant to the environment in terms of promoting green innovation practices. It would be much safer than the chemical ones because it was organic and has no drawback for the environment. And also, this research will be important to the labor sector because the proposed molluscicide is cheaper, unlike the commercial ones. Also, the primary raw material needed can be collected everywhere. This also will be significant to the future researchers because it will be serve as an access for greater knowledge and understanding in utilizing plant extracts as molluscicides against golden apple snail. It can be used as a related literature for further scientific investigation. And also, it was inclined to this event team, which is bridging research and innovation towards CALABARZON, sustainable and inclusive development, as it utilizes a organic material, which is a plant that invades other crops and has no significant use to any industry. And this innovation will benefit not only just the main beneficiary, which is the farmers, but also the CALABARZON, as it is an agricultural region. Next slide, please. For the flow-up methodology, the Crucipogon esculatus leaves were collected in Barangay Mambog 3, Bacoor City, Cavite, and were transported and prepared for laboratory work. The collected leaves were washed and air dried, and the dried leaves were boiled, filtered, and prepared for qualitative phytochemical analysis to determine the bioactive compounds present in the Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction, such as alkaloids, flavonoids, saponin, and sterols. Moving on to the next slide, we collected the small and large Pomacea caniculata in Barangay Mambog 3, Bacoor City, Cavite. We measured them using rulers to determine their sizes, and the Chrysophogon aciculatus leaf decoction was diluted in water to obtain the 25, 50, 75% test concentrations, and we also bought the positive controls, such as niclosamide and metaldehyde wettable powder and dissolved it. We sprayed the test solutions using an atomizer spray in each container, and the golden apple snail were deprived for food during the exposure. We monitored the movement of each golden apple snail by probing it with a needle, and if it remains immobile, it was considered dead and it was being recorded. The percentage mortality of different sizes of golden apple snail was computed and analyzed using a two-way analysis of variance to determine the statistical significance between the sizes of Pomacea caniculata at various concentrations. Next slide, please. To answer the sub-problem number 1, what are the bioactive components present in the leaf decoction of Chrysophogon scolatus amarseco? With the result of qualitative phytochemical analysis of Chrysophogon scolatus amarseco crude leaf extract, it was found out that the niclosamide, flavonoids, saponin, and sterols were present within the amarseco crude leaf extract. Next slide, please. To answer the sub-problem number 2, what is the percentage mortality of Pomacea caniculata golden apple snail after the application of A, 25, B, 50, C, 75, and D, 100% of Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction, E, metaldehyde wettable powder, and F, niclosamide wettable powder? It was found out that the niclosamide and metaldehyde exhibited the highest percentage mortality of small Pomacea caniculata golden apple snail with the 100% mortality, followed by 100% and 75% of Chrysophogon scolatus amarseco leaf decoction with percentage mortality of 90% and 80% respectively. Lastly, the 50% and 25% of Chrysophogon scolatus amarseco leaf decoction exhibited 76.67 and 70% respectively with the lowest percentage mortality. Next slide, please. As per the percentage mortality of large Pomacea caniculata golden apple snail, it was found out that the niclosamide and metaldehyde exhibited the highest percentage mortality with 100% and 96.67% respectively, followed by 100% and 75% of Chrysophogon scolatus amarseco leaf decoction with percentage mortality of 93.33 and 83.33 percentage. And lastly, the 50% and 25% of Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction exhibited 76.67 and 66.67 respectively with the lowest percentage mortality. Next slide, please. To answer the sub-problem number 3, is there a significant difference between the mortality of small and large Pomacea caniculata golden apple snail at various concentrations? Here it was shown in the two-way ANOVA that there's no significant difference between the sizes and also the sizes and treatments. However, there's a significant difference within the treatments. So to determine the cause of the difference within the treatments, 2 keys HSD was employed. Next slide, please. As for the 2 keys HSD for the mortality of small and large Pomacea caniculata golden apple snail in treatments A, B, C, D, E, and F, it was shown that there's a significant difference between the treatments A versus D, which is 25% and 100% of Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction, A versus E, which is 25% of Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction against metaldehyde wettable powders, and A and versus F, which is 25% of Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction against niclosamide wettable powder. Also, there's a significant difference between the test concentrations B versus E, which is 50% and 50% of Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction against metaldehyde wettable powder, and B versus F, which is 50% of Chrysophogon scolatus leaf decoction against niclosamide wettable powder. Also, to the treatment C and versus E, which is 75% of crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction against metaldehyde wettable powder. And lastly, C versus F, which is 75% of crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction against niclosamide wettable powder. Next slide, please. Based on the summary and findings, the conclusion were drawn. First was the Crucifogonosculatus omerseco leaf decoction has a mollucicidal activity against Pomoseca nicolata golden apple snail. And all of the prepared concentrations, such as 25, 50, 75, and 100% of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction, were able to kill at least 50% of total number of exposed Pomoseca nicolata. We also concluded that the higher the concentration of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction was more effective in terminating Pomoseca nicolata. Next slide, please. Also, 25% concentration of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction is as good as 50%, and 75% of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction and 50% of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction is as good as 75% and 100% of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction. And lastly, the mortality of Pomoseca nicolata is attributed to the presence of bioactive compounds as mollusicides such as alkaloids, flavonoids, saponins, sterols in the leaf decoction of Crucifogonosculatus. Next slide, please. For our first recommendation, the testing of mollucicidal activity of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction against the other life stages of Pomoseca nicolata. Then we also recommend the field testing of mollucicidal activity of Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction against Pomoseca nicolata, and also to conduct a quantitative phytochemical analysis of Crucifogonosculatus in order to determine the amount of bioactive compounds as a molluscicide such as alkaloids, flavonoids, sterols, and saponin present in the plant. Next slide, please. We also recommend for extraction of other bioactive compounds as a molluscicide present in the Crucifogonosculatus crude leaf extract to be used against Pomoseca nicolata, because the concentration of these bioactive components can be attributed to the molluscicidal effect of the plant. Also, we recommend of utilization of other local weeds that have potential to kill Pomoseca nicolata, and also to use other Crucifogon species aside from Crucifogonosculatus to kill the Pomoseca nicolata. And lastly, to use of other Pomosea species aside from Pomoseca nicolata as a subject to be killed by Crucifogonosculatus leaf decoction. And that's conclude my presentation. Thank you for listening and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Villas, for your presentation. Let's proceed with the next presentation to present to us the best paper for the environment sector entitled Silver Grass Fiber as a Component of an Eco-Friendly Sorbent Bag for Oil Spill Cleanup. We have Mr. Micler Angelo Zepeda of Senior High School in San Nicolas 3, Bacoor City.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I would like to apologize firstly for the unnecessary noises because there's an ongoing renovation right now. So hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Michelangelo Cepeda, and in behalf of my co-researcher, Sir LRC Balsomo from Senior High School in San Nicolas 3, Bacoor City, City Schools Division of Bacoor, here to present our study entitled Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber as a component of an eco-friendly sorbent bag for oil spill cleanup. Next slide, please. So we all know that oil spill is one of the environmental problems we are facing nowadays. Not only that it is damaging the marine life, but also the ocean itself. With this, the government is proposing solutions such as the use of booms and skimmers, bioremediation, oil pumping, and the use of synthetic sorbents such as the polypropylene and polyurethane foams. However, the use of such synthetic sorbents has a drawback to the environment due to its low biodegradability and high cost. That is why we have opted to conduct this study to know the potential of the Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber as a component of an eco-friendly sorbent bag for oil spill cleanup. Next slide, please. This study aims to answer the following question. First, what is the morphological characterization of Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber? What are the diesel oil sorption capacities in dry and oil layer systems of sorbent bags with 595 micrometer, 841 micrometer, 2000 micrometer Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber, and the polypropylene, which is the positive control of the study? For question number 3, what are the kerosene oil sorption capacities in dry and oil layer systems of sorbent bags with 595 micrometer, 841 micrometer, 2000 micrometer Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fibers, and again the polypropylene? Next slide, please. For question number 4, is there a significant difference between the diesel and kerosene oil sorption capacity of Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fibers and the standard sorbent agent used in dry system? And for the last question, is there a significant difference between the diesel and kerosene oil sorption capacity of Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fibers and the standard sorbent agent used in oil layer system? Next slide, please. This study will then be significant to the following. First, to the environment in promoting green innovation, to the community, construction industry, labor industry, future researches, and in relation to the theme, bridging research and innovation towards Calabarzon's sustainable and inclusive development, this study will then be able to contribute into our country, Philippines, specifically here in Calabarzon area, since the Miscanthus sinensis is a weed that can be found throughout here in the Philippines, again, specifically in Calabarzon, and the production will then be easy because on how fast they can grow and how abundant it is in the location of Calabarzon. Also, our location is surrounded by the bodies of water and near coastal areas, which is prone to oil spill, on which my product will then be able to compete or potentially replace the commercially sold sorbents due to its biodegradability and lower cost than them, thus promoting a greener and cleaner way into solving the environmental oil spill problems. Next slide, please. The process of making such sorbent bags start with the collection of the Miscanthus sinensis fibers at the Danghari here at Bacoor City, followed by the preparation of Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass with it being washed into water, cut into smaller pieces, oven dried for 30 minutes, crushed using an electric blender, then sieved into 3 different sizes, such as the 595 micrometer, 841 micrometer, and 2000 micrometer, which is according to their mesh numbers 10, 20, 30, respectively. Next, it was then subjected into morphological characterization analysis held at the University of Santo Tomas at the ASL department using a scanning electron microscope guided by Ma'am Junie Lisangan, followed by the purchasing of materials and setting up of containers. 48 250 milliliters of beakers was then prepared and then the materials were then purchased, followed by the preparation of sorbent bags with Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fibers, on which 7 grams of Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fibers were put inside the sorbent bags with 3 replicates for the 3 different sizes. Then it was subjected into the 2 tests, such as the diesel oil sorption capacity and the kerosene oil sorption capacity, which also has 2 tests, the dry layer system and the oil layer system. The dry layer system is a 50 milliliters of solid diesel and kerosene, while the oil layer system is 100 milliliters of artificial seawater and the 10 milliliters of diesel and kerosene. Then, the setup was then monitored and then data was recorded. The data recorded was then subjected into the statistical analysis. Next slide, please. For subproblem number 1, what is the morphological characterization of Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber? So here, we can see under the images of the scanning electron microscope that it has 4 different magnification, such as the 200 micrometer for A, 100 micrometer for B, 50 micrometer rather for C, and then 30 micrometer for D. It can be seen under the images of the scanning electron microscope that the Miscanthus sinensis is exhibiting a highly stable and porous structure that is protruded on both sides, on which is attributed to its characteristic of being a good quality sorbent. Next slide, please. For subproblem number 2, what are the diesel oil sorption capacities in dry and oil layer systems of sorbent bags with 595 micrometer, 841 micrometer, 2000 micrometer miscanthus sinensis silver glass fiber, and lastly is the polypropylene. Now first, in the diesel dry layer system, we can see that the polypropylene has the highest oil sorption capacity with 4.14 grams per gram, followed by the 595 micrometer with 3.9 grams per gram, 841 micrometer with 3.29 grams per gram, and lastly is the 2000 micrometer with 2 grams per gram. Next slide, please. Now here, in the diesel oil sorption capacity of sorbent bags in oil layer system, we can see again that the polypropylene has the highest oil sorption capacity with 1.83 gram per gram, followed by the 595 micrometer with 1.33 gram per gram, 841 micrometer with 0.83 gram per gram, and lastly is the 2000 micrometer with 0.27 gram per gram. Next slide, please. Now for subproblem number 3, what are the kerosene oil sorption capacity in dry and oil layer systems of sorbent bags with 595 micrometer, 841 micrometer, 2000 micrometer miscanthus sinensis silver glass fiber, and the polypropylene? Now here in the kerosene dry layer system, we can see that the polypropylene again has the highest oil sorption capacity with 4.48 grams per gram, followed by the 595 micrometer with 3.33 grams per gram, 841 micrometer with 2.81 grams per gram, and lastly is the 2000 micrometer with 2.33 grams per gram. Next slide, please. Now for the kerosene oil sorption capacity of sorbent bags in oil layer system, we can see that the polypropylene again has the highest oil sorption capacity with 1.33 gram per gram, followed by the 595 micrometer with 1 gram per gram, 841 micrometer with 0.83 gram per gram, and lastly is the 2000 micrometer with 0.43 gram per gram. Next slide, please. Now for subproblem number 4, is there a significant difference between the diesel and kerosene sorption capacity of miscanthus sinensis silver glass fibers and the standard sorbent agent used in dry system? So using the two-way ANOVA, we can see that there is no significant difference between oils. However, there is a significant difference among the sorbent bags as well as the interaction of oils and sorbent bags. In order to know the cause of significance, two keys HSD test was used. Next slide, please. In the two-keys HSD test, we can see that there is no significant difference between A and D, the 595 micrometer and the polypropylene, B and C, the 841 micrometer and the 2000 micrometer. However, there is a significant difference between A and B, the 595 micrometer and 841 micrometer, A and C, the 595 micrometer and the 2000 micrometer, B and D, the 841 micrometer and the polypropylene, and lastly is the CND, which is the 2000 micrometer miscanthus sinensis silver glass fiber and the polypropylene. Next slide, please. For subproblem number 5, is there a significant difference between the diesel and kerosene oil sorption capacity of miscanthus sinensis silver glass fibers and the standard sorbent agents used in oil layer system? So again, using the two-way ANOVA, we can see that there is no significant difference between oils and the interaction of oils and sorbent bags. However, it can be seen that there is a significant difference among the sorbent bags. In order to know the cause of significance, two-keys HSD test again was used. Next slide, please. Now, in the two-keys HSD test, we can see that there is no significant difference among the following. First, A and B, the 595 micrometer and 841 micrometer. A and C, the 595 micrometer and 2000 micrometer. A and D, the 595 micrometer and the polypropylene. B and C, the 841 micrometer and the B and C, the 841 micrometer and the 2000 micrometer. B and D, the 841 micrometer and the polypropylene. However, there is a significant difference between C and D, which is the 2000 micrometer miscanthus sinensis silver glass fiber and again the polypropylene. Next slide, please. Now for our conclusion, the miscanthus sinensis silver glass fiber can then be used as a component for an eco-friendly sorbent bag for oil spill cleanup. The smaller the size of the Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fibers was more effective in diesel and kerosene sorption capacity in dry and oil layer systems due to its surface areas. Next, in diesel and kerosene sorption capacities of sorbent bags in dry system, the 841 micrometer is as good as the 2000 micrometer Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber. Next slide, please. In diesel and kerosene sorption capacities of sorbent bags in oil layer system, the 595 micrometer is as good as the 841 micrometer as well as the 2000 micrometer Miscanthus sinensis fiber. And lastly, the sorption capacities of Miscanthus sinensis fiber are attributed to its characteristics of being stable and porous and the composition of cellulose, which are some of the good properties of an organic sorbent. Next slide, please. Now, for our recommendations, the utilization of other types of oil as the subject for sorption capacity by sorbent bags with Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber. Second is the screening of more plants belonging to the family Poaceae as a sorbent bag for oil spill cleanup. And lastly is the conduct of testing in large-scale condition to determine the feasibility of Miscanthus sinensis as a component of an eco-friendly bag for oil spill cleanup. Next slide, please. And again, I am Michelangelo C. Cepeda, and along with my co-researcher, Sir LRC Balsomo from Senior High School in San Nicolas 3, Bacoor City Schools Division of Bacoor, this is our study in Miscanthus sinensis silvergrass fiber as a component of an eco-friendly sorbent bag for oil spill cleanup. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cepeda, for the presentation of the best paper for the environmental sector. From the best paper, let's now proceed to the presentation of the best poster for the research entitled Bioaccumulation of Heavy Metals in Sleeper Cup Oyster, Green Mussel, and Manila Clam cultured in Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines. May we call on Mr. Aaron Arbolado of Senior High School in San Nicolas 3, Bacoor City to present the best poster paper.
Thank you, sir. Could I be heard clearly, sir?
Yes po, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for giving us the chance to present our research here today. In behalf of my co-author, Mr. Jerome Domanico, from SHS in San Nicolas Chibar City, again, I would like to present to you our study entitled Bioaccumulation of Heavy Metals in Crassularia radiolae, Pernaviridis, and Vinarpis filipinarum cultured in Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines. For all we know, these mentioned bivalves are known for its nutrients such as protein, essential minerals, vitamins, and unsaturated fats, which is good for a low-fat diet. Also, these bivalves are one of the famous products of Cavite province, specifically in Bacoor. However, these bivalves are filter feeders, which means that they tend to accumulate heavy metals from their surrounding environment. Heavy metals are described as those metallic elements with specific gravity of more than 5 grams per centimeter. Accordingly, iron and nickel are essential to all life forms if there is a minimal level of concentration. However, elements like cadmium, copper, and lead are already toxic to organisms even in low concentrations. Consuming these bivalves with high heavy metal concentrations has numerous drawbacks to human health such as renal failure, liver damage, and cardiovascular diseases and anomalies in metabolic functions. This research will raise awareness to the community about the current status of the bivalves on whether it is still edible or not. The local government of Calabarzon and its aquaculture sector can collaborate in order to sustain the quality of the bivalves, since it is one of the main products of the region. This study was conducted to determine the bioaccumulation of heavy metals in Crassularia iradiolae or sleeper cup oyster, Pernaviridis or green mussel, and Vinarpis filipinarum or Manila clam cultured in Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines. Specifically, it was sought to answer the following. First, what are the heavy metal concentrations in the following bivalves cultured in the three sites of Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines? Second, are there significant differences among the heavy metal concentrations in Crassularia radiolae, Pernaviridis, and Vinarpis filipinarum cultured in Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines? Third, are there significant differences among the concentrations of each heavy metal in Crassularia radiolae, Pernaviridis, and Vinarpis filipinarum cultured in Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines? In order to determine the bioaccumulation of heavy metals in the said bivalves, the method starts with the collection of the samples on three sites of Bacoor Bay. These are found in, the first site is found in Barangay San Roque, Cavite City, The second site found in Barangay San Igualasan, Bacoor City, and the third site is found in Barangay Sapuare 5, Bacoor City. After the collection, the soft tissues were prepared for the heavy metal analysis conducted at Qualibet Testing Services Corporation located at Quezon City, which is a DOST partnered laboratory. They also monitored the setup and recorded the data while the researchers performed the statistical analysis, which is two-way analysis of variance. For the results, these are the heavy metal concentrations in the following bivalves, cultured in three sites of Bacoor Bay. But before that, please take note of the maximum permissible limit for each heavy metal as per World Health Organization, which are 1 parts per million cadmium, 30 parts per million in copper, and 2 parts per million in lead respectively. For Site 1, the heavy metal concentrations for Cressosteria radiolae are 0.73 parts per million for cadmium, 0.15 parts per million for copper, and 1.42 parts per million in lead. For Pernaviridis, the heavy metal concentrations are 0.32, 0.16, and 1.16 parts per million for cadmium, copper, and lead respectively. For Venerbis filipinarum, the heavy metal concentrations are 0.62 parts per million for cadmium, 0.55 parts per million for copper, and 1.67 parts per million for lead. For Site 2, the heavy metal concentrations for Cressosteria radiolae are 0.63, 0.39, and 1.53 parts per million in cadmium, copper, and lead respectively. For Pernaviridis, the heavy metal concentrations are 0.32 ppm for cadmium, 0.16 ppm for copper, and 1.16 for lead. For Venerbis filipinarum, the heavy metal concentrations are 0.74, 0.38, and 1.38 parts per million for cadmium, copper, and lead respectively. For Site 3, the heavy metal concentrations for Cressosteria radiolae are 0.78, 0.18, and 1.76 for cadmium, copper, and lead respectively. For Pernaviridis, the heavy metal concentrations are 0.34 ppm for cadmium, 0.22 for copper, and 1.55 for ppm for lead. Lastly, for Venerbis filipinarum, the heavy metal concentrations are 0.77, 0.45, and 1.74 parts per million for cadmium, copper, and lead respectively. On the differences among the heavy metal concentrations in the bivalves cultured in Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines, here are the results. It was found out that there are significant differences in the relationship among bivalves and within heavy metals. Through the use of Tukey's HSD test, it was found out that there are significant differences in the relationship between cadmium and copper, cadmium and copper and lead. On the differences among each heavy metal concentrations in the bivalves cultured in Bacoor Bay, in cadmium, it was found out that there are significant differences on the relationship within bivalves. Through Tukey's HSD test, it was found out that there are significant differences on the relationship between slipper-cupped oyster and green mussel, and on green mussel and Manila clam. For copper, there are significant differences within bivalves and on the relationship within sites and bivalves. With Tukey's HSD test, it was found out that there are significant differences on the relationship between slipper-cupped oyster and Manila clam, and on green mussel and Manila clam. For lead, there are significant differences on the relationship within bivalves and between sites and bivalves. Through the use of Tukey's HSD test, it was found out that there are significant differences on the relationship between slipper-cupped oyster and green mussel, and on green mussel and Manila clam. In conclusion, first, the bivalves are still safe to be consumed by humans. Second, it was found out that the most accumulated heavy metals in order are, first, lead, followed by copper, and lastly is cadmium. It was also found out that there is a possibility of bioaccumulation of heavy metals in the bivalves cultured in Bacoor Bay. Also, the cadmium concentration of slipper-cupped oyster is as high as Manila clams. In addition to this, copper and lead concentration of slipper-cupped oyster is as high as green mussels. And lastly, the lead concentration for slipper-cupped oyster is as high as green mussels. For the further improvement of this study, we recommend conducting heavy metal analysis of water, sediments, and other marine organisms present in Bacoor Bay. We also recommend to conduct analysis for other heavy metals in the said bivalves. In addition to this, we recommend to utilize other sites of Bacoor Bay to determine the bioaccumulation of heavy metals. Lastly, we recommend to determine the bioaccumulation of heavy metals in bivalves and other marine organisms in other bodies of water in the Philippines. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have learned something in our presentation. Stay safe, everyone, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arbolado. And before we proceed to the awarding of the winners for Best Paper and Poster, we would like to award the Certificate of Appreciation to the following for their invaluable contribution as evaluators during the abstract review and full paper screening. So the Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Dr. Susana A. Castillo, Ms. Marisa C. Argente, Mr. Mark L. Jean A. Libao, Mr. Ricardo B. Cachuela Jr., Mr. Lupel B. Gueta, Mr. Galmelzar P. Dean, Ms. Hazel M. Balbastro, Dr. Maria Celia Balagot, Dr. Humar B. M. Sadsad, and Dr. Lucena U. Mercado.
We also would like to award certificates of appreciation to the following for their invaluable contribution as judges during the virtual oral and poster presentation and evaluation. Certificates of appreciation is awarded to Dr. Lucena Mercado, Dr. Maria Silvia Balagot, Mr. Carlos Dahao, Ms. Hazel Balbastro, Gamelzar Dean, Lupel Gueta, Mr. Ricardo Cachuela Jr., Mr. Mark L. Jean Libao, and Dr. Jumar Sadsad.
Maybe we can request if our panelists or our evaluators are here in this forum to please turn on their camera for photo. Secretariat, please facilitate. Thank you. All right, I think we're done with the photo op. And to officially award the certificates to our presenters earlier who bagged the best paper for their respective sectors, allow me to read the citation. As we award the certificates, may we request the authors to please turn on their camera for the photo op. This certificate is awarded to Mr. Teofilo Palsimon Jr. for winning the best paper in the social sector for his research entitled Efficacy of Brain Spotting in Ameliorating PTSD Symptoms Among Filipino Residential Patients. Again, congratulations, sir. Same citation is awarded to Ms. Elarcy Balsomo, Mr. Neil Gabriel Carmoral, Mr. Jaime Luis Silvestre, and Mr. Claire Gerald Villas for winning the best paper in the agriculture sector for their research paper entitled Mollucicidal Activity of Chrysopogon aciculatus, Leaf Decoction Against Pomacea canaliculata. And please turn on your cameras. Again, congratulations. Last but not the least, same citation is awarded to Ms. Elarcy Balsomo and Mr. Miclair Angelo Zepeda for winning the best paper in the environment sector entitled Miscanthus sinensis fiber as a component of an eco-friendly sorbent bag for oil spill cleanup. Congratulations.
Again, congratulations to the winners of the best paper per category. At this point, we will announce the overall best paper. So the winner's paper came out the best among the 103 papers evaluated by our panelists. And without further ado, the winner of the overall best paper award is Mr. Teofilo Palsimon Jr. of DOH Region 4A. Please accept this certificate of recognition for winning the overall best paper for your paper entitled Efficacy of Brain Spotting in Ameliorating PTSD Symptoms Among Filipino Residential Patients. Mr. Palsimon, please turn on your camera for the photo op. Secretariat, please facilitate.
Thank you.
Thank you po, Sir Falsimon, and congratulations again.
Salamat.
And now we will announce the winners of the best posters across sector. Starting from the third place, congratulations to Mr. Allen Christopher Stabilo, Mr. Archie J. Espiritu, and Ms. Clarissa Gail B. De Guzman for winning the third place in poster overall for your research entitled Phytochemical Screening and Higis Manok Leaf Decoction against Cockwatusok Moth Larvae. Congratulations, young researchers. Please turn on your cameras for the photo op. Again, congratulations for winning the third place. Now for the second best poster award, congratulations to the following: Miss Helen B. Daya, Mr. Gino A. Cabrera, and Miss Noreen P. Echage for winning the second place in poster overall for your research paper entitled Development, Validation, and Evaluation of Psychological Wellness Modules for College Students. We request the researchers to please turn on yung cameras nila for the photo. Okay, again, congratulations to the winners. And last but not the least, the winner of the best overall poster are Mr. Aaron Tristan Arbolado and Mr. Jerome A. Domanico for their research entitled Bioaccumulation of Heavy Metals in Crust in Sleeper Cup Oyster, Green Mussel, and Manila Clam cultured in Bacoor Bay, Cavite, Philippines. May we request Mr. Arbolado and Mr. Domanico to please turn on their cameras for the photo. Again, congratulations everyone to the winners of the Best Posters Award.
Aside for the posters awarded earlier, we also have the Viewer's Choice Award. This is from the 34 papers submitted as poster entries to the Viewer's Choice under the agriculture, environment, and social sectors. The winning poster garnered the highest accumulated points from reactions and comments received through the Facebook page of DOST Calabarzon from September 28 to October 9. Our winner is the research paper of Ms. Cheryl Andal. Ms. Andal, we are requesting you to please turn on your camera. This certificate of recognition is awarded to Ms. Cheryl Andal for winning the Viewers Poster Choice Award for the research paper entitled Pedagohiya ng Kaligtasan, Community-Based Hazard Identification and Assessment Project through the application of problem-based learning approach in senior high school during the 6th Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum. This is signed by our RDC chairperson and RRIC chairperson. Again, congratulations, Ms. Andal.
Thank you so much.
Indeed, it has been a very productive and informative day. At this moment, to formally end this forum, may we request the Regional Director of NEDA Region 4A and Vice Chairperson of the Calabarzon Regional Development Council and Regional Research and Innovation Committee, Director Luis Banwa, for his closing remarks.
Thank you, Herbert. Dr. Felix Mercado, the Chairperson of the Regional Research and Innovation Committee of the Regional Development Council, Dr. Dorothy Nantes, President of Southern Luzon State University, and co-chairperson of the Sectoral Committee on Social Development and the Regional Research and Innovation Committee, Dr. Alex Madrigal, the Regional Director of the OST, and other regional directors here, Mayor Frederick Vida, our resource persons, researchers, participants, sponsors, the TWG members, evaluation committee, the judges, the secretariat, viewers from the live stream, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have only two main words for this Research, Statistics, and Innovation Forum, which we are about to conclude. First is to thank you, and the second is to encourage. Thank you, and I'd like to thank all this the following. Thank you to all the participants in the sixth CALABARZON Research Statistics and Innovation Forum. Those who are here with us in the Zoom and those who are watching live via Facebook, thank you for your active participation and for sharing your insights. All your comments and questions are noted by the Secretariat. Our plenary speakers, Dr. Dan Dachika of CP, for sharing the research and development in electronics industry and its innovation roadmap. Ms. Ning Aik Min for sharing the best practices of Singapore Polytechnic in research and innovation. Director Charito Armonia of the PSA for providing us with the result of the 2017 survey on innovation and communications technology, and more importantly to DOST Under Secretary Rowena Cristina Guevara for her keynote message. To all the researchers who have submitted the research paper and participated in the virtual oral and poster presentations. Thank you very much. Our sponsors, the judges, the TWG, and the Secretariat, thank you very much for your unwavering support for research and development and innovation, for sharing your resources and effort for this big activity. And congratulations to the winners for the best papers and posters. I'd like to encourage everybody to continue in the conduct of researches and discover new technologies and showcase your findings to inspire fellow researchers and to provide opportunities to the national government agencies, to the academe and private sector to adopt and implement the results of your studies. And I'd like to further encourage to work on innovation as a way of making things easier, more convenient, less costly, and responsive to the needs of the time and of the future, and a solution to the challenges. According to Ms. Means, we focus on people, also therefore we have to be creative. In order to do that, we have to reflect, recommit, re-engage, reboot, refresh for nation building and community development, as stated by President Nantes. Through the continuous efforts of CALABARZON Regional Development Council, Regional Research and Innovation Committee, and our partner agencies, the academe, the private sector, in bridging research and innovation, let us move together towards the attainment of CALABARZON's sustainable and inclusive development. Once again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Director Banwa, for reminding all of us that this is just the beginning and that we should not be discouraged of our current situation as we pursue research and innovation in our region.
This pandemic imposed several challenges, but let's utilize the technology that we have and continue to contribute towards nation building through research. This has been your host, Herbert.
And Angela, we thank the presenters and the participants of today's forum, and we hope for everyone's safety. Happy lunch at magandang tanghali po.
This is the Filipino people's vision. By 2040, the country is a prosperous middle-class society where no one is poor. People live long and healthy lives and are smart and innovative. The country is a high-trust society where families thrive in vibrant, culturally diverse, and resilient communities. This represents the Filipinos' aspiration of a matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay para sa lahat, which is integrated in the Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022. The Calabarzon region is dubbed as the industrial hub of the country, with the most number of economic zones, making it the second biggest contributor to the national economy. The region's economy is supported by a large and dynamic workforce and abundance of natural resources. The Calabarzon region shares the same vision and has been consistently in pursuit of a more inclusive growth and sustainable economic development. Towards this goal is the Calabarzon Regional Development Plan 2017 to 2022, which aims to provide direction for the region's development.
The Calabarzon Regional Development Plan 2017 to 2022 lays down the foundations for more inclusive growth, high-trust society, a globally competitive knowledge economy, and a globally competitive industrial region. It adopts the same framework of the Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022. In line with its goals, the region has set targets to sustain vibrant economy, significantly reduce poverty, maintain low unemployment rate, and further reduce underemployment rate.
The goal shall be achieved through the three pillars of malasakit, pagbabago, and patuloy na pag-unlad. For malasakit, the aim is to regain people's trust in public institutions and cultivate trust in fellow Filipinos by ensuring people-centered, clean and efficient governance, pursuing swift and fair administration of justice, and promoting Philippine culture and values. For pagbabago, the priority is achieving inclusive growth. This will be achieved by expanding economic opportunities in agriculture, forestry, fisheries, industry, and services, accelerating human capital development, reducing vulnerability of individuals and families, and building safe and secure communities. For patuloy na pag-unlad, accelerated growth is imperative and must be sustained. This will be done by maximizing the gains from demographic dividend and graduating to a knowledge economy, advancing science, technology, and innovation. Cross-cutting strategies are also in place to support the interventions under the three pillars. These are maintaining macroeconomic stability, putting in place a strategic trade and fiscal policy, and enhancing access to financial services. Ensuring that the physical environment will be characterized by a balanced and strategic development of infrastructure, while ensuring that there is ecological integrity and a clean and healthy environment. All this will be underpinned by ensuring national security against internal and external threats, and restoring public order and safety. Through the RDP, Calabarzon is confident of achieving a strong and more inclusive economy. The region sees increased investment opportunities from overseas Filipinos, improved competitiveness and business climate in local governments, more economic zones, and micro, small, and medium enterprises, and established priority infrastructure projects.
The Regional Development Council, as the link between the national and local government, champions convergence efforts and participatory governance in the attainment of our desired outcomes. It recognizes the role of the private sector as partners and movers of regional development. The Council calls for collective action in the implementation and monitoring of policies programs and projects and counts on the relentless support of all stakeholders. As the blueprint of regional development, we invite our government and private sector partners, the academic and civil society, to use the CALABARZON Regional Development Plan 2017 to 22 as guide in all our development efforts. Together, let us achieve our vision for a strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life for all.
CALABARZON in general is where majority of the semicon and electronic companies are located. Mainly because there's a good supply of labor here, peace and order is good, and the support group for the semicon industry is located in CALABARZON. This is the Silicon Valley of the Philippines.
We have an ongoing expansion right now. The naphtha cracker is being expanded 50%. We are building downstream plants, and we're building a third polyethylene plant. So that's about $1 billion worth of expansion today. I would really strongly recommend building it in CALABARZON.
Our advantage is not just our English-speaking skills. Inherently, Filipinos are very customer service oriented. We have the opportunity to build the skills of our existing associates today to handle more complex transactions that can't just be automated by AI or bots or whatever that is. As a BPO company, you will get very competitive labor rates for very high quality of work that matches onshore results.
With the ever-changing chipsets and design sets and PCBs are always being created, we're a top manufacturer for that. But our CNC, our design engineers, our machinists are all formally trained. We work hand in hand with the local academic getting the right people. Department of Science and Technology, DOST, and the metal side is a very good resource for us to get qualified people in and be able to work with us. So yes, it is a high-tech world, yes.
CALABARZON is an ideal location for automotive manufacturing because of this region's effort in establishing economic development zone to be home to companies such as Toyota and our network of suppliers. We have been strongly advocating localization by leveling up our own as well as our supplier chain's technical capabilities. Those TMP's participation in the government comprehensive automotive resources strategy of cars program.
We selected actually living in the CALABARZON versus say the Alabang area because of modern infrastructure, a very pleasant, quiet, safe place. International schools come here such as Brent, bringing multinational people here because of the education and the coursework. It's very competitive. CALABARZON is a high-speed network area, so it's very, very pleasing to have that. And of course, we knew the ongoing infrastructure for the superhighways that are being built. So that's really attractive for us because we have family that lives in the north, so the superhighways are very convenient for us.